So, hello and welcome to episode 107. T.
Ooh.
107. I don't know why I went into darts commentator there, but yeah. How are we doing this
Well,
week, Mark?
not. I've been fishing.
I know
But
you've been fishing. Yeah,
we'll not talk too much about that because so far I'm actually building my way up to catching a carp. I've had a bream, I've had a tench, I've had a blank. I'm on my way.
don't even talk to me about catching fish. Obviously, I'm not fishing at the minute. I'm stuck at home. But since I came back to England, like September, October, I fished a few times. For multiple nights. I don't even want to say how many it's been because it's embarrassing. I'm pretty sure I haven't actually caught a carp since I've been back in England, um, which is really not good. But yeah, I know you went out. You've been out a couple of times, have you, this week for day
Yeah,
sessions?
just
And your mate had one, didn't he?
just day sessions. The first day session was we have a couple of old mates, Russ and Chris, and the main objective of it wasn't catching carp. It was to have a socially distanced social. Basically, drink coffee, eat bacon, and talk bollocks. And we succeeded on all three counts. And my mate Chris pulled this nice little common out. It was, I don't know what it was. We didn't weigh it, 11, £12, whatever, but it doesn't matter. It was bloody good fun. And to be honest, it's just what I needed. I think we've all been ready to escape. It's been a bit like Groundhog Day. I've been on flexi furlough, only working so many days a week. I've been either at work or at home pottering around, have an adventure once a week to go to Asda to do the shopping, and it was just nice to get out. So you must be ready. We'll have to get once we get out to Playmate, we'll have to get down to Nace at Cromwell or somewhere and get the sticks out.
Yeah, I actually had Nathan up here for a few days. Been doing some work. He's preparing to open this shop, as you know. So he came over to mine on Sunday, I think it was. Stayed for a few days while we went, we did work basically. Um, I'm stuck in the house for a good few weeks yet, so I'm not going to be down at Cromwell. But you just missed. You weren't in on the chat that just had with Rob Hughes, but
Yeah.
he started asking me about moon phases. And he said there's a lot of people talking about it. He thinks it's a little bit, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Hocus pocus.
Two words that say exactly what I wanted to say. Yeah, all Hocus Pocus. Remember a song called Focus by Hocus Pocus?
Yes, instrumental that was about an hour and a half long.
It's brilliant. If you've
I do
never
remember
heard,
the one.
we'll get pulled off YouTube if I put it on. So I won't put it over this podcast. But yeah, go and check out Focus by Hocus Pocus. It's as Mark says, an instrumental track. I used to
Speaking
love
of,
it.
can you just say that?
Full moon, night. Yeah, well, that's why we were talking about it. So
Tomorrow is
basically,
the full.
this is the wolf moon apparently,
Ooh,
which
I
you've
like
just
wolves.
missed. This is the wolf moon. Yeah,
Stark's moon.
I don't know, but I mean, don't wolves come out? Well, werewolves come out on all full moons. I don't know why this one's a wolf moon, the others are not.
I don't think they're actually real.
Anyway, basically, Rob's been saying I've never really put much focus on the hocus pocus, but this week in this lead up to this moon, there's like three or four of the big fish in whatever the lakes are that he's been keeping an eye on have all come out in the space of 12 hours. And he's like, from all different places. He's like, there's a reason for it. Anyway, if you remember, on this particular full moon, it was about 15 years ago when I was fishing Yateley. Lewis had Heather the Leather, and there were two other fish out that night. I think John...
Dustbin and Uglow.
Was it? Yeah,
John
John
Mack.
Claridge. No, John
Claridge.
Claridge had one of them.
Was it?
Would have been Dustbin, I think. Maybe it was Uglow. I can't
seem
remember.
to
Anyway,
that's round about the period where everything carp out, Raisbury, everywhere. I was like just devouring it all. That was what was fueling my own fishing, reading about that sort of thing. So
yeah, well, it was the February full moon, or what
yeah.
Rob tells me is the wolf moon, which means you're going to hear this on the first day of the prime days. It's
Oh.
what? 99.8% effectivity. It goes to, I think Saturday night's the main full moon, but if you can fish the next 2 or 3 days, I predict here and now on the Carp Cast that it's going to be not just some big fish, like the biggest fish out of whatever lakes are going to be caught over the next couple of days. Just got a feeling about that. So can you get out at all, Mark, or are you back at work?
I'm back at work. I'm full time this week. We've got about 3 million price changes to get completed, so getting out for me.
I'd just seen a bit of a news report or a chap making a Facebook post basically saying how prices are going up constantly. And the same day you said to me you've been at work repricing everything. I think we've got
all of them have gone up. There has been a split, but even the ones that have gone up, there's not they're not massive jumps. To be honest, you'll not even notice a lot of them.
No, it's this chap. I'm gonna have a look for the message in a sec. But basically, he's saying they've just had a new list from all sorts of companies, and a lot is going up. So maybe you'll have to redo them again next week.
Thanks for that. I just can't wait. You know what? Did you I listened to a bit while I've passed around in the garage the other day. The Cord were doing the podcast, with the short interviews on at the minute.
Yep, I did one of those myself last week.
Yeah, they had one with Damien Clark on, and he was on about some like the costs of importing, getting containers into the country now, and after the Brexit thing, and it didn't go into too many details. And I'll be honest, I was potted around and wasn't listening intently to every single word, but it would make sense that those prices have to unfortunately be passed on. These companies, they've still got everything to pay, the staff to pay, the bills to pay, and they still need the margins.
Yes, I've just found this message. Mike Donegan, he's got a shop, I think. Pure Fishing are applying a flat 2.5% surcharge to everything. Fox are increasing prices by individual items. Corda also issued a range of price increases last week. Now we have import duty applied to goods received from Browning and PB products, all of which inevitably means the consumer will be paying more. I've still not received any stock from Shimano or Svensson Sports since we left the EU. I think it's not just Brexit now, though, is it? There's a whole load of things will come at the same time. There's restrictions with COVID. We're moving stuff around, which is going to make getting containers in and stuff more difficult. Maybe this is one for Tom to do a bit more investigating. He's investigative, but I'm sure it's not a coincidence you've been putting prices up the same week as I'm reading this stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure there'll be shops all up and down the country, and not just fishing. I know downstairs where I work, it's all camping and outdoor stuff. It's been the shop-wide price changes.
Yep, things are going to get more expensive in the UK. That's for sure. You can't not be a part.
There's another thing that the skeptic in me thinks. Do you think a lot of companies are going to use things like Brexit and the COVID situation as an excuse just to put prices up anyway?
That's business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Petrol stations have always done it with the price of oil, haven't they? As soon as that oil price shoots up and it's in the news, they wallop it up everywhere. And then when the oil price comes down, you don't hear anything about it, and they don't. They're not in a rush to by midnight tonight to let's half it. Get it loads cheaper.
Yeah, that is very true.
Of course, companies do that. There's putting prices up on. I've done business courses over the years, and one of the main ways, if your business is struggling, you don't put prices down, you put them up, because there's like some sort of chart they always go on about, some graph that shows if you sell a large amount of items, you put them all up like a small amount. Basically the increase in revenue versus loss of customers or whatever is greatly higher than getting more customers but making less profit on each one. Like the graph, doing it the two options, the two models, it's massively different. Basically, don't discount anything because it's what's known as being a busy fool. You do more work for less money, which is not generally a wise career choice. But yeah,
I can think of several people when you say that, but I'm going to be quiet right now.
What, in the fishing industry?
Yeah, I'll not go any further. I'll get sacked.
Mm. All right, your former employer.
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
yeah. In fact, let's just cut that bit out.
No, 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 no. These are the best bits. People love the dirt. Uh, they love the gossip. I've been chatting with Ben this week. Ben Govia is
Oh yes.
naay.co.uk, or is it .com? I never know. I'm sure they both work. But not all about you. Ben is an expert in social media, and he's a keen angler now, and he's looking to work with companies within the fishing industry. He's taking hold of our reins. We had a phone meeting this week, made a business plan for how he's going to promote the Carp Cast for us. So if you want to watch how good he is at what he does, and you'd like to apply it to your company, then keep an eye on our YouTube and socials, because Ben's going to be taking care of all of that from probably from next week. But yeah, it's called Not All About You, because basically the story is bigger than just yourself or whatever product you do. Have a chat to him. The guy is very, very, very knowledgeable. Ben Govia, naay.co.uk. Have a chat with Ben, and I'm sure if you're looking to get a brand going, get a business going within the fishing industry or outside of it, he normally works outside of the fishing industry. We found a LinkedIn remark that he'd sent us a YouTube guy. He looks like he's an ex-marine. He writes books. He does all sorts of stuff. I had a look at through the channel, which is all Ben. It's all stuff that he's done. It looked absolutely fantastic. It's a great sort of test case, and the Carp Cast is going to be a test case as well. Let's fly our YouTube channel up. And if you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, if you're listening to this on your podcast app, maybe you don't know that you can watch our ugly faces as well as listen to our dulcet tones. It's very, very easy to do. Just go to YouTube, search the Carp Cast, and you will see our episodes. And I think we're going to have a go at getting some of our old episodes, maybe putting a bit of video to them, or something to make it interesting to watch, as well as just listen to us. So yeah, get yourself over to YouTube. If you can click subscribe, then please do so. Let's bump those subscription numbers up. It all helps with the marketing and everything. Same with your favourite podcast app. Clicking or making a review, even if it's to slag us off because you don't like us. Do it, because it all helps. And if you, do you know what? I had a message 2 days ago, Mark, from a chap on my Instagram. I think it was on my Instagram, Jamie Clossick, and he said, these other podcasts are just not a patch on yours. Please, please, please start again. I was like, this is like, what, you'd recognise the name, Mark. I forget who it is now. I was like, yeah, we're on 107 this week. What? He didn't know. There's a lot of people out there that don't know we've kind of not only started back up again, but I feel like we've put probably 6 of the best podcasts we've ever put out. In the last 6, yeah, we're enthusiastic. There's been a lot of content in there, a few laughs. I've really enjoyed doing them, so I'm hoping that's come across to our listeners. But there are regular listeners of ours that do not know that we are back up and running. So if you can help spread the word in any way, likes, shares, reviews, all sorts, then please do so, because we wouldn't want even our loyal customers missing out on what we're doing, would we, Mark?
No, definitely not. So spread the word, fly the flag, tell your mates, tell your mum, tell everybody, tell your cats. Yeah, I tell you, it won't be long now before we can hopefully be sat in the bivvies listening to the birds tweet at dawn at the waking up with a Carp Cast on in the background.
Exactly. Yeah, there was. I'm getting regular messages again now of listeners, like we used to when we first started, Mark. Every day there was something either heartwarming or criticising or constructive criticism, or it doesn't really matter, just interaction from people, and that is happening again.
Yeah, in between all the spam I seem to be getting at the minute.
Oh, the spam on Instagram at the minute's unreal.
It's every other message. It's either just a link or I saw this and it was you, and then another link, and you just delete. Do not even click or tap on those links. They are spam. You'll be hacked, and it's just not good. You know what? I did see another one I had, quite a good email. It was saying eBay are now going to change the way they process your payments. They'll be going straight into your bank account instead of your PayPal. Follow the link. Where
I've
they
done
would
this.
have
I've
asked
had
for
the same.
your they'd have asked for your bank details, obviously,
Yep.
which they are not having, obviously.
Well, I've done all that. I've filled it in, and then I sold an item like a bit of musical equipment. It was like, I think it sold for £550, plus like £15 postage. So the total amount was £565. The guy's paid for it. It's showing as paid on my eBay account. I've looked in PayPal, no PayPal payment, and I've remembered I'm going to make it go straight to your bank. So this on a Thursday, the guy's going, when you're sending me a bit of kit out, and I was like, well, I've not received the money yet. Let me look into it. Looked into it, showing that he's paid, on the eBay system.
Yeah.
Anyway, the money turned up on the Monday, so it's now took 4 days for me to even know. So he's waited for his gig, so I wasn't sending it until I can actually see the money somewhere. Even if it tells me it's on hold in PayPal, it's great, I'll send it, because at least I know PayPal I've got it. Anyway, it finally turned up in my bank on the Monday, but £476 from 565 is what actually arrived in my bank. So
nearly £100 light.
it's a lot of money on £550, I think, or 565 with the postage.
Yeah.
There's no way I'd have sold it on eBay if I'd have known.
So that email I got wasn't like a spam email then? Wasn't
No. It's a true one. Yeah, that's what eBay are doing. It's true, but they've obviously decided, because PayPal's an individual. It's a separate company to eBay, isn't it? They used it, but obviously didn't. Elon Musk start PayPal. Pretty sure he did. That's how he made his first 500 million or whatever he made. But it looks like they're cutting out PayPal now. Obviously, PayPal make a load of fees on the money. I'm assuming eBay want all that to himself. So it was 15% plus a load more. I worked it out to that they'd taken, which I think is a ridiculously high percentage for facilitating a transaction.
I think that's just playing into the hands of the likes of Facebook Marketplace.
Well, there's no doubt that Facebook are trying to be a one-stop shop for everything, aren't they? There's dating things on there now. They've got the marketplace, to replace eBay. The dating stuff works exactly like Tinder works. You won't know that being a married man, but yeah, they're moving into all the other avenues, and presumably
you still get people on
them.
Facebook dating holding fish in the profile picture.
I mean, I don't know. I've just found out the message, by the way. Ross Everill. He's put the other podcasts are good, but don't feel as relatable as yours did. Hope to see it make a comeback one day. I'll put thanks, pal, but next episode's 107. He's put, don't tell me you're back already, and I missed it. So there are many people out there that want to hear us like Ross that aren't hearers. So yeah, please do. And public service announcement: use Facebook Marketplace and not eBay, because they are robbing you. But yeah, if you can support the Carp Cast in any way, or you could just go and buy tickets to win a trip with Mark and myself. You can go to carpcirclegiveaways.com and you will see up there. I think it's £7 to enter. There's going to be a maximum of 500 tickets. We might do some runner-up prizes as well. So for your £7, you get a 1 in 10 chance. We do 10 runners-up prizes, 9 runners-up prizes, so there's 10 prizes total. That means you've roughly got a 1 in 10 chance of winning something, which I think is pretty good odds. Either way, you win the love of us, because you will have supported us to the tune of £7. Buy as many tickets as you like. I've had people messaging me saying, how many tickets can I buy? You can buy them all if you want, and guarantee that you'll come and fish with Mark and myself. We'll do it on Linear or somewhere like that. You will also get a Nash Titan T1 camo bivvy, which are very, very good. I use the T2 still. Quality bivvy. You can do all that for £7 or multiples of £7 if you want to increase your chances of winning. carpcirclegiveaways.co.uk. We've got one with Mark Holmes coming up. Been speaking with Shimano today about the runners-up prizes. Holmesy, one of the biggest bits of information on this podcast, technically wise. He doesn't do tuitions or anything like that, and we've got a money can't buy prize to fish with him. And we do have a list of other people. I'm not going to spoil them all now.
I think I'm going to enter that one with Holmes, and I'm just going to sit there and punish his brain all the time.
Well, you'll be there anyway if you want, because it's a Carp Cast trip. One of us has to be there, so we might as well both be there if we can.
Oh, yes, definitely.
But yeah, Holmes is doing one. I won't spoil the others because they're doing guests as well as, you know, they're going to launch the competition with a guest on the podcast. So I don't want to spoil our upcoming. I don't want to give any spoilers, but imagine back in the day if you could have won a chance to fish with Chris Yates on Redmire. You know, not only the legend angler, but the legend angler on the lake that he's extremely famous for. We have the equivalent of that, I think. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's coming up in a few weeks'
Was it
time.
the equivalent of winning a session with Rod Hutchinson on Savvy?
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. So, yeah, that is upcoming. But for now, get yourself over to carpcirclegiveaways.com and you'll see there's a picture of a Titan Bivvy and Carp Cast above it. Click on that, 7 notes, and support the Carp Cast, and everybody's happy. And we will be seeing somebody on linear with Mark and myself. We might bring a sheep for a mascot.
There it is. Bang. My sheep mug.
Hold it up again when the picture's on you.
There we go. Am I there?
Yeah. Carp are not sheep. Should we do some Carp Cast sheep mugs? We could do.
Carp Cast sheep mugs? That's a possibility, you know.
Yeah. Merchandise. We've had our fingers burnt with that once upon a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go.
I think we dived in rather than testing the waters, but have you still got them?
Yeah. The box is full of them in the Northern Angling Show warehouse. Yeah, they come out every year on the Northern Angling Show. Just end up normally giving them away. Yeah, there we go. Anything else you got to talk about, Mark?
There's a couple of funny things that I noticed. Other the funny one first. The old school group that we're all big fans of.
Yep.
Now, Big Fish legend Dave Lane posted a fish. It was either yesterday or this morning. They have a £36, rather large, fat sort of mirror, which he caught from the Scout Lake. Which, if you don't know, it's a different ticket, but on the same chain of lakes as like the St Ives complex. At the bottom of the lake is the Great Hughes. Directly over the other side is Fen Drayton. There's a lot of big carp pedigree around there. Now, there's a funny story with this fish. Going back a few years, there's one of the lads on the, he's fished around the lakes around there as a local-ish. I'm not going to name him because that would probably be a bit unfair. But he was telling this fantastic story how he'd poached one of the nature reserves in the area and baited it up and basically told this heroic tale how he caught this uncaught 50-pounder. And he's not a big fella, and he's showing pictures of him holding this rather fat fish. And those who've seen the picture, no one was really doubting him. He wouldn't tell anyone where it was. But fast forward a year or two, the Scout Lake gets opened up to one or two anglers. I think it was in Carp Addict magazine. Dave Lane's got an article there holding this very same mirror, only it's not £50, it's £36. Thus exposing Billy Liar.
Was this chap the lad that used to fish with his dad?
No.
All right, somebody different. Somebody I know, is it?
It is, yeah. I'll tell you his name off record.
Okay.
I don't want to drop him in it because it is a while back, and I just thought it was funny. It did make me smile when I saw Dave Lane's picture with that fish again. And,
yeah, you did a bit of time on Scout Lake. You had some fish, didn't you?
One. It's very, very hard. There's a low stock of pretty much anything. From what I saw with my own eyes, I would say there's somewhere between 15 and 20 carp in there, maybe less. It's around 30 acres, quite long, with a bit of a dogleg sort of one end and a couple of little bays. It's the same with the bream and the tench. There was pretty much not much of those. But the great result of that is there was next to no one fishing it. The bailiff, I forgot his name, but he had two big gangly deerhound dogs. You might see him bream fishing every fourth or fifth trip, and that was it. I only ever saw one other carp angler, and that was on August bank holiday, where I'd arrived on the Monday or Sunday, whenever it was, and he was doing a longer weekend session. That was it. But just to show how low stock it was, my main plan of attack on something like that, where you can get away with doing a lot of pre-baiting without anyone else jumping on it, that's what I did. Go for the old baiting pyramid theory, the old 6-week plan, as we used to call it back in the day, where you choose, 2 or 3 likely spots, and you bait the absolute balls out of it with pretty much everything from maggots, casters, hemp, pellets, nuts, boilies, corn, and the lot, up to big boilies. And you know what happened? Absolutely nothing. My spots weeded up through the bait. And I know that for a fact, because I can't confirm or deny the snorkel and mask feature finding trip I had out there. Again, an advantage of fishing a really quiet lake. And when I eventually did catch, I just kind of resorted back to old school. It was coming like August into September. I found a nice open water spot. It would be a bit of a travelling sort of area. There was an area. It wasn't a bar. It was more of a ledge where it went from, down to around about 20 foot in a big sort of area. Kind of like came up to like 11 to 12 as it got towards the top. You got a bit of a tap 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 gravel. If you come back over that, it was more of your soft silt. So I just baited up with boilies. The boilies I'm on about as well. The old bananas.
Yep.
Great common bait. And that was August. I think I'd had something like 3 or 4 weeks off just as a bit of a break, because I'm not going to lie, it was doing my head in. And I did even had a drive all the way down, 200-mile round trip for an overnighter just to get a load of bait in there. And my first trip down there, a northerly was actually blowing down the lake, perfect for that swim. And I'll tell you a funny story about that swim. It's called the Scout Lake because there's a scout hut down the bottom and a little field next to it. This particular swim is next to the field. There's like a fence and you're in like the edge of woodland. So I've arrived there early hours of the morning after I'd finished the night shift, cast out the rods, I've got them clipped up, the distance marked on, paste out on the bank, whatever. And that's it, I've done after night shift, cast out, gone to sleep, woke up probably about, 10:30, 11:30 in the morning. It's still quite warm, so I'm just in my scruffy boxers in the bag. I've woken up, I've got out for a stretch in just my pants. I've looked right, and there's a field full of kids running about. I've dived straight back under the brolly before I get the police called on me. But yeah, the very next morning, I had my one and only take, not just from a carp, from anything out of that lake. And luckily for me, it was the big common I'd gone there to try and catch. And one and done. I had a couple of more sessions, but that was my time on the Scout Lake finished. It was a beautiful, long, metallically scaled common with the whitest, peachiest lips. The only time I've seen lips like it were on the mother.
Wow. I plan to do a bit on there. I took my how do I say this? My boat. Let's just go there. Boat. There, stashed it, ready to start fishing. Dave and I took it down. I had a quite a heavy boat previously from Fendrate, and former manager of Fend. Did I go down this road or not? No, it'll only cause us trouble. But anyway, my stolen boat got stolen on the Scout Lake. I did neither of the stealing. It should be noted here, but yeah, moved it over there, and I'd had it a couple of years. I think it was a good one. Like, you got to pay said person to do the taking for you, and I think they used to come out of the harbour at St Ives and then go down back of the river there, and then it was a very short journey just over the back to the lake. Not Scout Lake, the aforementioned lake. Anyway, yeah, it it's quite a common. Definitely not the first rodeo, anyway. Put it that way. Um, but yeah, I put it on Scout Lake, and the next time I went back to go fishing, it was gone, and it was properly chained up and everything. Anyway, I never actually fished the Scout Lake, but I like the look of it because you could use boats and stuff at one time, and there was rumoured to be some 50s in there, wasn't there? Some on-court one. I don't know if they ever materialised. Well,
I
that
think
Cub Lake was it at the back supposed to have had the 50 in?
it was, yeah. The Cub Lake, it did do a fish around about 48, 49. I don't know if it ever went 50. I do know that one is no longer with us, unfortunately. I don't know if it was otters or not, but we all know they are in the area, and those two lakes, I don't think they will ever be fenced.
No.
Just because I don't think, well, fishing is not the owner's priority, and just the nature of the lakes. I'm sure they could if they actually put the money in, but I don't know. I think the fence would it would spoil the scenery.
Yeah, are they not on the Ives complex tickets these days? I know obviously Gordon got the rights to a lot of the lakes round on that complex.
Yeah, they're not on the St Ives ticket. I think they'd be better maintained if they were.
Yeah,
because they, well, to be honest, they weren't maintained at all. I think they might have put a new lock on the gate while I was there, as the other one fell to bits. But that's about the limit of the maintenance. But it's that sort of fishing where you don't mind it. You don't mind having the pair of shears in the back of the car just to trim that last bit of branch so you can get the cast round the corner in and do your own little bit of maintenance. I like that sort of thing.
Do you know what? It's been a long time since I used to take what were them big, the bigger than machetes, like jungle knife thingies you used to get from the army stores. They were like kind of bent a little bit, sort of, like a curve in them. Yeah. I don't know if they were called a jungle knife or whatever. I always had one. I had a big knife for fishing shady public lakes and stuff. Obviously, still got it. You don't need it on syndicates and stuff. But I remember fishing that place at the back of the hotel in Northampton.
Ransom Road.
Ransom Road, yeah, scary as hell on there.
I had one night on with you on there, and then I left you to it.
Yeah, I used to keep a big machete under the bed and a big jungle knife thing with me. But obviously, I bought them not for defending myself, but for lakes that needed it, because we used to fish a lot of lakes back in the day where you did have to cut your way through or cut a swim or. I fished a number of lakes like that, but I'm trying to think back. When was the last time I fished anywhere like that, where you really do feel like you're pioneering?
It's I won't say it's a dying art. I'm sure if you look hard enough, you will be able to find those sort of places, especially on the rivers and canals that are around. And I know some of the rivers near me, especially with the floods we've had over the past, winters dating back 20 odd years, since commercial venues, your commercial match venues stuffed full of small carp have become popular. A lot of them are next to rivers, they're flooded, and I'll tell you a story. There's a river, I'm not going to name it because I might want to fish it sometime for the carp, but it's not a million miles from where I live. There's about 5 or 6 years back, I'm just down there on an evening with a stick float, and there's this lovely run on the inside. It's nice, it's about 10 foot, but you're fishing 4 or 5 foot deep where the trees overhang, and you're just holding back, catching little chublets up to about 12 ounce, one every chuck. It's great fun. I'm watching the stick float down. It's near the end of the run, and this carp just like up and down behind my float about 10 foot. I was like, whoa, when you just double take. What are you doing there? And after that, I kept like not wanting to get a bite. I was throwing big bunches of maggots on and trying to let it run further down, but I just couldn't get through the chuck. But I need to go back. I need to.
How big do you reckon the carp was?
Up a double, maybe 20 at best. I have since seen pictures of fish up to 28 from that river from someone else who's fished it.
It's worth having a go, maybe even now. Oh, we're saying that we've had a lot of rain. The rivers aren't fantastic at the minute, are they? But
no. Plus, we've got a little over 2 weeks of the river season left, and I dare say for fishing a river, it's got to be the fish are going to be nomadic. You're going to have to pre-bait and. Basically get them visiting your spot before fishing to get the best of it. Trying to just hunt them and walk up and down, you could be, unless you know something, know an area where they're likely to be, you could be chasing your tail a lot. Better to bring them to you.
I've never had a good go on the rivers that are kind of running up the back of lakes, so that whole Fen Drayton area that's flooded many times over the years. We know the amount of big fish that have lived in the lakes around there. Some have gone on the missing list. Like, obviously, that'd be a fantastic stretch. I remember we were talking about Carp Addict before, and I remember there's a guy, John Bannister, knew, like, quite a big guy he was. I remember him catching a really fat 40 from the river somewhere near down there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's a big spawny fish.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name, but I remember the picture. Yeah, I don't know if it was from the river or one of the drains in the area, but still the same sort of thing.
It was from I think it was from the river, yeah, but one of the side bits probably was one of the drains off the river. So I'm guessing that's a bit stiller, isn't it?
Have you?
But you've got the river around, like Leeds, Eric's, all that sort of area around there.
Yeah.
I know that's done one of the big ones out of Eric's a couple of times since that flooded. But if you were to identify, lakes that flood regularly, but near prolific carp fisheries, ones that have regularly done big ones, spent a year or two concentrating on the river, I'm sure you'd have results.
Oh, without a doubt. Just don't put them on social media. Keep them to yourself and just drop me and Jamie a message. River, swim, bait, tactics, and best time.
Anything like that. So I think it's news time. Should we see if we can get Tom Ayres in?
Let's get the Tom.
It's on the net in association with carpfeed.com. So it's definitely true.
So I'd like to welcome back once again for the news from Carp Feed and Angling Times, Mr. Tom Ayres. How are we today, pal? I believe you might have been fishing.
I have. It's been a while. I've done a bit of lure fishing, but this is my first time I've been out for a day session since Christmas. So I've, you've caught me fresh from the bank. The fishery closed at 5 o'clock, which is a bit frustrating because it's still light till about 6 o'clock. But I'm still in my fishing clothes, and went perch fishing on a commercial, fishing prawns underneath a waggler, and had half a dozen decent perch. So, good for Instagram perch, aren't they? When carp are hard to catch, then perch are easy.
You never know, using prawns as well. The carp do love a prawn.
They do. I've been to this commercial a couple of times. I find it fascinating just watching everyone else is fishing for carp on this water with 2 rods and bite alarms and stuff, and you realise, how crude some of the tactics are. Maybe it's a lack of education and experience. No slight on those anglers around me, but it's interesting. Some of the huge, great whacking method feeders. Dive bombing next to me, and I didn't see anyone catch a carp today, and there wasn't much finesse going on. So it was quite fun just to slot in between the carp anglers and catch some perch.
Nice. Sounds like a decent day. Have we seen this kind of influx of catch reports yet, or has there been any other news this week?
I've definitely seen today on social media a lot of anglers going out. I've seen Ali Hamidi catching his first fish. I think he was sort of match fishing style today. That sunshine, solar powered carp anglers. I mean, I'm probably as guilty as anyone going out today. Although there was a frost this morning when I got up, I had to de-ice the car this morning, and. I've had the week off, so I'll be honest. I've been blissfully ignorant of catch reports. Carp-wise, we've had one good catch report this week. I know from someone I know who I've done a feature with on the Trent, a lad called Mitch Godfrey, who's an angling guide up in Nottingham. Nice bloke, and I went to see him probably about 5 years or so ago now, to a nice spot on the Trent, almost in the centre of Nottingham. You could only get to by boat. I think he was living on a boat at the time, and he sent me a catch report. He had a fish that he thought might go 30 pounds, a 28-pound mirror. Took 60 yards of line off him on the first take. He's obviously fishing a day session. He said the water temperature was only 7 degrees, so still pretty chilly. But got this screaming take, got this powerful River Trent mirror in at 28 pounds, and then braced it with a 15-pound barbel, which isn't not a bad double act, which shows the power of the Trent. I mean, to be honest, a 15-pound barbel on the Trent these days isn't as exceptional as it was. My colleagues who do the general course stuff on Angling Times will tell you that for a Trent fish to be considered for a Drennan Weekly Award, for example, would have to be well over 15 pound these days. So the Trent's barbel stocks are phenomenal at the moment, but the carp are still relatively untapped on there, and a 28 from any river is a decent fish. So and to brace it with a 15-pound barbel, that's not a bad day's work.
You remember the original Trent big carp? I think Mark and I actually mentioned it recently, but yeah, the Trent Ghosty. It was 40 odd pound years ago. Remember that one? I think it had escaped from somewhere, but lived in there a long time, and it had a few homes. I think it ended up in a couple of lakes every now and again, and then back in the back in the Trent. Yeah,
there were a few nomadic fish, weren't there, that dipped in and out of running water around that sort of time, weren't they? Around the turn of the millennium, I guess, wasn't it? And it was quite a, it was good looking fish, though, wasn't it? I know it was a ghosty, and that's not everyone's cup of tea, but it was sort of mid-40s, wasn't it? And quite well proportioned on it.
So. Yeah, it was. It was a cracking fish. A lot of people made a lot of people happy. A lot of people fished for it, and it's big fish for a river. It sustained itself in there for many years, I believe. Pretty good. We chatting with Rob Hughes on this show, and he's covered a few topics that we have over the last couple of weeks, namely the one that's relevant now, I think, the lead debate, this potential for banning lead. Oh, it's a European law, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen my phone as I say, I've had the week off, but obviously I'm still connected to all the social media accounts, and I've been getting regular so and so has commented on your post, and the comments have lit up on this. It has really exercised people in the comment section, and it's polarized people, which is it's the modern way, isn't it? People have got strong opinions either way, and effectively, I'm sure Rob explains it as we've quoted Rob. My colleague Chris Hayden wrote the story that's on Carpfeed at the moment. It's the lead story on carpfeed.com at the moment. And effectively, we've been following it for a little while. There's the European Chemicals Agency have been researching. They've been searching lead in the environment, effectively. So whether that's from lead shot through shooting, or whether that's through anything that comes from fishing. And they've been researching it, and they've made some recommendations that will go to the European Commission for a decision on whether. The thing that affects carp angling is the practice of dropping the lead. You could have argued maybe 10 years ago it was a practice that was unknown outside the angling world. If you weren't an angler, you wouldn't know that carp anglers deliberately ejected leads, really, because it's not something you'd think of. But clearly, those researchers are well aware of it now. It's referred to by its name in the report, and it's clearly seen as a potential problem. And they've recommended, this European Chemicals Agency, which part of the EC, part of the European Commission, has recommended that practice be banned. There's a few sort of, I don't know, not caveats, but a few factors to this, in that obviously Brexit is one. But you could take a wider view and say, regardless of Brexit, maybe we have a moral obligation to stop dropping lead. But then you'd hear from Rob Hughes, who says that he doesn't really see leads. He's diving more than anyone in day ticket waters, and he's not coming across mounds of lead. You could also say that those leads are coated. So, and again, I'm no scientist, but they might well be effectively inert. If they're coated, then they're not. The lead isn't reacting with the water because there's a plastic coating that seals them in. But if you just said to someone who doesn't angle or doesn't fish, we drop the lead deliberately, I mean, it sounds pretty, it makes you cringe as you say it, doesn't it? Or it does me anyway. I don't have a fully formed opinion on this. I think it's one that angling has to wrestle with. Whether it becomes law in the European Union that we're no longer part of, I think is possibly a side issue, because perhaps angling needs to deal with it, morally, whether it's right or not. And there are people who say that it's not causing a problem, that the lead, it's littering. Rob admits, I think he calls it sort of low key littering, I think the quotes that we got from Rob, and that's probably not great. But if the lead isn't reacting, isn't causing any chemical changes in the water, then perhaps there isn't any real harm. It's a tricky one, isn't it? No wonder people are commenting like mad on Facebook about it.
It's an interesting one, because where we drop it in water, you can't see it, right? So is that the same as a littering, dropping rubbish somewhere somebody can't see it, that's out of water? We wouldn't walk around flicking 3-ounce leads out of our pocket all over the street, and not expect somebody to say something later on down the line, but because we're dropping it in a lake. But it does get covered over. We know it doesn't pollute lakes. I know we talk about Grenville a lot on this show, and it's easy because it's quite a landmark, benchmark type venue for fish stock and everything. But one of their rules is you must drop the lead. You have to. Now, you know how many bites a year come out of that place? Thousands, right? You know, Roger himself has caught, you know, well over 100 fish. You know, if there's 100 members doing that per year, it's we know how many bites. That's 1,000 3-ounce leads is supposed to be the maximum, 3-4, let's say, on average. You work that out over the last 15 years of Grenville. That's tons of lead that you have to drop in that lake by law, and that's for fish safety. So I know Paul at Grenville, I'm not speaking for him, but I do know he's extremely obsessive about his water quality, and he tests it. You know, he tests stuff. So if there was an issue with this practice, I think we would have seen it by now, you know, on these type of lakes. Can you imagine how many leads get dropped at a linear, Brazenose type lake? And as Rob says, he doesn't see them when he's diving. The Earth does swallow up stuff. You know, if we all walked away from the Earth now, went to Mars, I've already said this on this podcast, but in 10,000 years' time, our cars wouldn't be here. They'd have been swallowed into the Earth. The metal would have dissolved, as it were. And you think how much stuff's on this planet. I mean, this planet has been wiped out and kind of come back again a number of times in its history. There's virtually no evidence except the pyramids of any former thing, and that's because they were built out of stone. But you know, metals will vanish over tens of thousands of years. So, and how much natural metal is already in the Earth? You know, like, you know, that's where they come from, isn't it? You know, they come from inside stuff.
Exactly. We all mine metals out of the earth to get them. It's one of these ones. It'd be a good pub debate, wouldn't it, if the pubs were open, or you know, or a tackle shop where you could have a few cups of tea and just stand around the counter and have a real debate about this, because there's strong opinions on either side, which I think we have to respect. One of the other people that we quoted in our story that I said my colleague Chris wrote is Andrew Ellis of AE Fisheries, and his view is that. We shouldn't, you know, his view is probably the middle view. If you've got people who say we should never do it and people who say, well, it doesn't really pollute, he sort of says, well, fisheries should generally be made to be as snag-free as possible so that dropping the lead isn't seen as a necessity. And I think that's probably a fairly reasoned view. And for me, as I said before, the thing that stands out is that if you told a non-angler that one of the things we do is intentionally eject 3-ounce leads on every bite, or, you know, most bites or every bite at Grenville, it doesn't sound great, does it? And I just fear that it could be used as a stick to beat angling with, if it was widely known, and if it got into the more mainstream press. So it's one to grapple with. That's all I can say, passing the buck.
I mean, it's very much a UK thing, you know, it's UK anglers. And has been, you know, obviously Kevin Nash invented the lead clip, you know, specifically for that purpose around a time to solve a problem when our lakes were getting weedier and weedier. But European lakes are less weedy. You've got places like Austria and that are quite similar to UK, but generally they're a lot deeper and they don't have the weed problems that we have. Most of the sort of European lakes I've fished, France might be different, but generally it's only the English anglers go in there. Their anglers don't drop leads. Every fish they use it, normally because of the amount of fish that they're catching. You can't catch between 10 and 20 fish a day and drop a lead every time. You can't afford to do it. You know, it's physically a cost thing. Some English fishing, some lakes where 10 fish a year is good, 5 fish a year is good. You know, it's not uncommon for UK lakes, but 5 fish a day is common for the vast majority of European lakes. So they just use inlines or helicopter rigs, you know, and I have seen odd people using the quarter clips, you know, the heli drop off things, the heli safes. But again, you can set those to drop and not drop. They certainly won't have them set to drop as standard. You know, so it's an English angler thing. Again, how we address that. Good old English causing problems in Europe again.
Exactly. I suppose another thing to mention, I guess, is the alternatives. We've quoted Simon Pomeroy, who runs Palatrax, who, as people have pointed out, has a vested interest in selling his stones weights, which are stones with swivels in, effectively. Yeah. You know, people have criticised him for being business motivated. I think that's probably a little unfair.
More than 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. He's not doing it to make a quick buck. I think he passionately believes in not using lead. I mean, I fished a club water for the last couple of years, shallow, silty, weedy, and I've been using biodegradable leads just because of the surface area. They cast terribly. They're not the Palatrax stones. They're a biodegradable lead from a small company that I got given a sample of. But I do like the surface area, the way they sit, sort of just don't sink into the sill, and they're light enough for me. I quite like using light leads when I can get away with it. So, and these biodegrade over a period of time. So there are alternatives, and I think there is some kind of metal or some compound or something that I can't remember the name of right now that is just as heavy. I think at the moment the alternatives just aren't heavy enough for the size, and that's the problem with casting and things like lead is the best option in terms of it's pound for pound is how dense it is and how much weight you can get from a small volume. But maybe it will force necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. Maybe it will force the hand of people who are looking to find a proper alternative to lead. So it might spark some innovation, perhaps.
Yeah, but one of the problems is going to be that you'll lose distance with casting because you'll have to have a bigger object to get anywhere near the same weight. So either way, it's going to reduce casting. Now, that's going to affect Europeans more than it affects us. As Rob mentioned in this discussion, one of the biggest problems is we banned lead in England a long time ago, like for small weights and stuff, the lead shot and the stuff that the animals actually ingest, the stuff that can cause a problem for wildlife. But the Europeans still use it, I believe. They still use the smaller lead. So it may be because like it's dropping the bigger, the bigger leads, carp leads that we use, because dropping that tends to be an English thing, not a European thing. But the actual bit that's causing the real problem is the small ones, on bird life and stuff. It may be that the Europeans have a bigger voice on this than us, which would be good, because they may just concede using the smaller ones and have a limit like we do. I think it's 1 ounce currently is at the minute. Anything under an ounce is not legally. You're not legally allowed to use lead in this country, which is why we're okay with fishing leads, but they're all artificial ones now, aren't they? If you buy a little pack of shot or something. So I'm hoping that'll happen. They'll just ban the small ones abroad and make a Europe law.
I think that's one area. You're right, and Rob's right to point that out. I think that's one area where we've sort of led the way in Britain with split shot. I remember lead shot when I was very young. I'm in my mid-30s, but most of my fishing life it's been the whatever it is it graphite or something that's
some sort of alloy, isn't it?
Yeah. So on the split shot front, we've led the way for a long time. We've had our house in order for a long time. So and you're right, that's the stuff that can be ingested by birds. You mean they're not tipping up and swallowing 3 ounce leads, but maybe it'd be good if that was a European-wide thing. I think no one would argue that split shot should be made from things other than lead. But it'll be an interesting one to watch this. I'm sure it'll rumble on.
Shout out to Martin Wessel, whose name I've always known is Split Shot. That's what he's called. Shout out to Martin. Very nice chap and good angler. That's it. A bit thin on the ground this week. The news. I've seen a few big fish caught. It's full moon weekend this weekend, and this is, did they call it the wolf moon? I believe I've been informed this week. Which is generally a big fish moon. I remember a load of the Yateley fish coming out on this day about 15 years ago with 3 in one night, which for 9 fish is a lot. Seen a couple of better fish. There's been a 40-pound Cheshire common I've just flashed up on my Facebook before, which in fact I don't know if it was common or mirror, but a 40-pound Cheshire carp, which is a big fish, especially for February in Cheshire. I think it was a late record and a PB for the chap. So I think this time next week we'll have a lot of fish to report on. Until then,
I think we will. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks so much.
For all the news, check out carpspeed.com.
So a big thank you to Tom. Yeah, what else is going on, Mark? Anything?
Yeah, there's something that I mentioned to you the other day. I think we shall we'll have a discussion. That's plagiarism online of anglers' work. I'm talking about articles. Now, what brought this up is, I can't remember what I was searching, but on my feed appeared something that I recognised as my own work. It was a short extract from an article which I'd submitted to Carp Talk sometime in the past, which It is assumably online somewhere. And I was talking about, bird life and how, you can use bird life to locate carp. And it had been posted in this group. I thought, that looks familiar. Now, I'm not going to make any money out of this article. I'm not particularly, fussed, but give a little bit of credit to the author at the end. Cite your sources. And, got me, whereas this fella did actually put in the comments when I was kind of fishing around and challenging him, that he actually wrote, well, I've not claimed it was mine. I was like, yeah, but you've not said anything different either. So when people are saying, commenting, oh, this is great information, thanks, whatever his name was.
Just taking the glory.
I felt a little bit, a tad annoyed. So
it happens a lot. It's a bit of a funny subject actually, because a number of articles, myself and many other people, contributed to a certain magazine by a very well-known angler, keep turning up elsewhere, in books and stuff. And I don't really know how the copyright is. If you write an article and give it to a magazine, do they own that forever? Can they just make other books out of it or put it in different magazines? Or I don't really know. I mean, you would think. I mean, I'm never going to want. There's probably no money for it in the first place, so let alone the second time round. But it'd be nice to be asked, made aware, or at least sent a copy of the book. I've had a number of my pieces appear in books that the person putting together's not even acknowledged that they've done it. They've just gone ahead and done it and cracked on, and they've not let you know. They've not given you a copy of it. Feels a bit wrong, to be honest. And again, it's one thing not claiming. I'm talking about your situation here. There's a big difference between saying this is not my work, credit to the author, or allowing people to think it's your wisdom of knowledge coming out, which is clearly what your situation, the guy was trying to do. Saying, I didn't claim it was mine. Well, you didn't say it wasn't either, and so people naturally presume it's yours when you write it on your page or your group or whatever it is.
I think it's just, to be honest, I think it's just polite to, if it had sent me a little PM saying, I like this article, do you mind if I just copy and paste it in this group? I'd have replied and said, yeah, go for it, do it.
Well, I saw the comments, and you and he actually put, I can't remember where I got it from. It might have been in whatever. It was wrong wherever he said he did see it. And he said he didn't.
He actually, at first, because I asked where he'd got it from, he said, I don't know, I think it was an Adam Penning article.
Exactly. So he'll know full well where it's from if he's copied it.
Of course he is.
And then
did you actually read what article it was? What the story I was telling?
Yeah, I read the whole thread.
Yeah, you're mentioned in it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I didn't read the article again, but
no, it was on about. I say with the bird life. It was on about where we saw the rotund fish charge at the ducks.
Yeah. Chased them off.
Yeah. Yes, get off my mixers. They're mine.
It was rotund for a reason. The bloody dog's found a bone. It's now decided to chew it underneath the mic.
It's not one of your own bones, is it? Is it still in your shin?
There it is. There's the culprit.
Poor dog, give him his bone back.
Her, and no, not while we're recording, right under the table that's got the mic on her. Now she's giving me dirty looks, but she's done that many smelly farts today that she can get stuffed.
That bone might be the reason. Might be a bit off.
No, yeah, plagiarism. It's a bit annoying. I mean, I don't. It doesn't really matter how it stands legally. Morally, it's wrong. You should be asking if you're going to reproduce someone's content. I remember Carp Talk. Both you and I had written for Carp Talk over the years, and I remember Crowe contacting me once, saying they were putting together a few of the pieces that from the magazine into a book. Did I have any problem with it? Were you in that same book as well?
Yes. In fact, there was two of my articles reprinted in that book, and I think there was just one of yours, was there?
I can't remember. What I do know is I have a copy of that book on my bookshelf just up there. Signed by everybody. It's just a nice gesture. If you're going to appear in a book, you want to be acknowledged and your name in it. So at least Carp Talk and Crowe and the gang did it right. But there are less scrupulous people out there. That is for sure. Is that class as a rant, do you think, from us both? A joint rant?
Yeah, a rant in tandem, a tag team rant. I'm not used to rant. I'm usually quite laid back and mellow. I usually just bring the jokes and take the piss. But yeah, that annoyed me. That got my goat.
Got your goatee. I need to cook some dinner. I think it's probably time to
wasting away.
Yes, me too. Probably time to get Mr. Hughes in.
Feels like I'm in love. Just like the first time I met you. Yeah. It feels like I'm in love. Just like the first time I met you. Yeah.
So I'd like to welcome back to the Carp Cast, a man that's even got his own jingle, the Hughes News from Sarah. Please welcome Mr. Rob Hughes. How are we doing today, pal?
Mate, yeah, flying at the moment. Really, really enjoying the weather getting a bit better, I've got to say. Just a little bit of sunshine lifts the spirit so much, doesn't it? It feels like we're out of it now. We've got the announcement that we can start to live again. The sunshine and the sky's out. The world's a good place.
It is a lot better. I mean, let's just quickly the jingle that you have by Sarah. Have you seen? She's like mainstream Radio 1 now. I don't know if you've seen that. She did.
Yeah,
she did the Annie Mac show last week. She's done the Danny Howard dance show on Friday this week. She's a household name. It's going to be very soon. It's just a matter of time before she gets her own show. But she's been working with BBC Six, introducing and stuff for quite a while. But yeah, she's fully blown, letting her out on the mainstream radio. Yeah, so I'm going to get her to do some new jingles for us at some point. So maybe we'll have a new Hughes News. I think.
Good girl, well done. Good girl.
Yeah, fantastic. The sun is out. I felt a bit brighter today, but I think even more brighter. All I'm seeing now is the events companies have literally flown out today. This festival's happening, that festival, Leeds and Reading have been in the news. They're happening in the summer. Camp Festival I've seen today, which down your neck of the woods, I believe that one, wasn't it?
Yeah. How good is it just to start getting life back again, that we can start to think that there was...
I still don't quite trust it yet. Like, I've seen all these festival ones and I'm thinking, wow, they've, how is a festival going to look, by festival, I also am including stuff like our show, the Northern Angling Show, which you work at every year for us. What are they actually going to look?
We've missed it, haven't we? It's been a real... when the memories pop up.
Oh, it's all week we've had them, because obviously we've done, eight shows now, is it? And they all happen around now, roughly. So literally for the last week and a half, if it's not this year's, it was the year before's and memories. And if it's not the year before, it's the year before that. And literally it's been tough, I think. Have you missed the shows?
You know what? To begin with, I'll be brutally honest, to begin with, no. I didn't miss the slightest, because remember, I do one almost every weekend. So we've got there's the three in the UK, but of course I do the one in Holland, I do the one in Czech Republic, I do one in Germany. I'm with Dynamite as well. We're all over the place. So to begin with, it was lovely to get the weekends back, because this time of year normally I'm away 3 out of 4 weekends, and having sort of got 4 weeks in to show season, I'm actually now really, really missing them. To begin with, it was lovely, but now it's like no. And when the memories pop up, it just reminds you of how good they are, and the Northern is just a brilliant show. I'm not saying it because it's your show, but it is just such a good show. It's got one of the best vibes of all of the international shows. The buzz is brilliant, the people are great. It's one of those that you go to when you bounce at, as opposed to just go and work at. Really,
it's going to be a funny one next year, I think, because obviously a lot of things have changed. I mean, by next winter, which is when the shows are, we'll be well and truly used to kind of post-COVID restrictions and everything, because it's never going to be exactly the same. But I like the idea of everything being cleaner. I've always looked at the shopping trolleys in Tesco's and whatever, and looked at the grime of other people's hands on the handles and stuff, and just having cleaning stuff, by the doors of every shop is a great thing. So there's going to be some good things that become normal life. There may be some social distancing or masks in winter, kind of like the Chinese have had for the last 20 odd years. They've always worn masks in winter. They look weird when they come on holiday to England and they get off the plane with their masks on, but we know all about that now. I know the companies, obviously you work currently with Dynamite and Carp Spirit, is it? Obviously they've, most tackle companies, everything, they've sold out of everything. Like, we've had a bumper year kind of fishing wise. It's one of the few activities we've been allowed to do, and we'll touch on a bit of that in shortly. But the companies have had probably sold more gear than they've sold in a long time recently. I know most of them are out of stock of pretty much everything, and they haven't done any shows, which has obviously saved them a load of money and a load of hassle. So do you think, after having 2 years nearly of no shows, do you think they will be rushing to do them again? I know the customers are going to be super excited to go, without doubt.
100% we are, because with Carp Spirit as a prime example, Carp Spirit has primarily been a French brand in the past. It's a brand that's come from France, that's sort of not being reinvented is the wrong word, but there's going to be a lot more English products with it. It's massive on the continent, but it's not really known about here. And one of the jobs that both myself and Ian Russell have got is to bring in a few new products into the range that suit the English market a little bit more. So as a result, we've got loads of new products. And what we want to do is we want to put those new products in front of people so they can see them, touch them, feel them, because seeing a photograph on social media is all very well, and watching a video is quite good, but there's no substitute for seeing it. And because it's a new brand, there's not that many people with stuff on the bank yet. So we need to get it out on the bank for people to see it, or we need to shove it in front of a load of people's faces. And that's why we in particular are chomping at the bit to get out back to shows again. In addition, when you look at all the companies, look at Fox, they're permanently releasing products. So there's always stuff coming out, and everybody wants to get their products in front of people to see them. So it's been for too long.
I just wondered if it was going to be end of an era, but it's encouraging to hear things like that. Obviously, we don't know yet. We don't normally start working on a show until kind of August, for the following February. So we haven't started yet, and obviously we haven't been able to start because who knew? How can you plan for something? I mean, the venue's gone. Whatever happens, it's going to be in a new venue. Event City doesn't exist anymore. It's been knocked down. They were going to build another one across the road, but obviously with no events, they stopped plans to do that. So it will all change anyway whenever it does happen again. But
look, the thing is, customers love it. The footfall through the door loves the show. We like to go out to do things, particularly at that time of year. It gives us the opportunity of going, of seeing, of meeting, of touching, of doing all of these things. So as a result, if you've got customers wanting it, then trade will provide for it as well, I'm sure. And if you look at the whole of COVID across the board, a lot of the times it's been a little bit like an elastic band. If you think that elastic band, everything was slow down, then suddenly when it was released, it went past the point. And I think it's going to be another elastic band situation. But then again, I'm always very positive. I look on the positive side of everything, and I think that if people want it, and there is a demand, then it will happen. Simple as. That's get the fundamentals right, and that will work. And we know the Northern works.
Yeah, that's the thing. Hopefully, people will drive it. We know from the messages that we get, constantly. If you plan the next show, we still get people asking if there's one this year. I did have a look at doing a couple of outdoor shows this summer, which I'd kind of shelved the idea, but it may be possible now with the fact that all the festivals are releasing dates, right across August and stuff. But generally, the people want to go, so there'll be a show of some description. Northern Angling Show, we sell 10,000 plus tickets every year. Like, those 10,000 people are chomping at the bit to get out. People forget. People also, not only is the social aspect, they buy some things for the year, don't they? At the shows, they might buy the LEDs, in the packages, because it's a fraction of the price of going in the shops. All these LED companies. So I can't see people, the consumer, wanting to change that. It might be easy for the companies. It depends. I've been speaking to a lot of companies over the last week or two, because helping a friend of mine set up a tackle shop, Nathan at Cromwell. I think I can say this now. Yeah, he's opened a tackle shop up in the northeast. Got the lease and everything sorted. Been helping him get the account set up and everything. And everybody I've spoke to is game. You know, I know Nash have said they may or may not. They may pull out a show sort of thing. They said they weren't doing one for 2 years. Last time I spoke with Alan, I think it was, but we'll see. The market drives the companies, doesn't it? You know.
Exactly that. You know, everybody's had a bit of a break from these things, and you know, as good as they are commercially, actually, if you're involved in this, and the customers aren't necessarily going to get this, but when you're involved in the trade, when you're just going to go from one to the other to the other to the other, it's a really, really tiring time of year. And yes, you get to go to shows and you get to talk fishing, but it's really draining when you're working it all the time. So the majority of people, when they get to the end of show season, they're really, really pleased that that's the last show. You know, it's a little bit similar with the competition scene as well, because competitions haven't happened for 12 months. Remember, last year they didn't happen. The year before, our men's event was in January or February in South Africa. So actually, we haven't competed for 2 years.
It's going to be 2 years, isn't it, by the next time? So yeah, let's move on to that. What's happening as far as your role as England manager? Is that everything just been paused, or so? What are the plans now?
Well, the last competitive event on the FIPS calendar that we fished was the World Games in South Africa, and that was February 2019. So literally 2 years ago last week, because again, the Facebook memory pops up. And that's one of the things that I love about Facebook, that, you know, take all the shit away of everybody arguing about the next door neighbour's cat and where people are parking and all the rubbish that they argue about, and look at the good things about it. It's a brilliant source of information. And actually, it's a lovely photo album that provides you with great memories. Prime example today, and it didn't pop up on mine. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't post it. But Richard Stangroom, and I've got to pop it up. He popped one up, and I'll show you that now. That was the memory from, I think it was 12 years ago, which is the top of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot that this time, that many years ago, we were on top of the highest mountain in Africa. I mean, it's great. It's like, oh yeah, remember this? Real good talking points. So I love these, you know, the Facebook memory things. Anyway, it's come up obviously with the World Games. I would not have given it 2 years ago. Where's that last year gone? I'd have thought it'd be 12 months, but it wasn't. So last year we didn't have an event. Nothing happened at all. It was supposed to be World Championships for the ladies in the UK at Linear in August, cancelled, and we were supposed to be in the Ukraine for the men's Worlds, cancelled. So this year, everything is still on, and what they've literally done is they've unplugged 2020 and shoved it back into the 2021 slot. So everything is on the same dates, at the same venues, just a year further on. And it's been actually really refreshing to unplug ourselves from the competition element of it, because it is, you don't realise how intense these things are until you step back away from them. And I'm sure you see that with the shows as well. You know, you just do it. And it's only when you step back and you don't have to do it that you realise how much work you do to make it happen. So it's been interesting to have a year off the competition side of things, and I've really, really enjoyed it, I have to say. But now all of us are just starting to get a little bit twitchy that we want to get back to it and get competing again. So fingers crossed it will happen.
So what have we got? We've got the ladies in August. Is that the first thing?
It is it's actually the 1st to the 4th of September. I'm looking that way because that's where the wall planner is. So events this year, we were hoping to run an Anglo-Welsh ladies early on in the year, but obviously there's been too much uncertainty about when we can and when we can't, so that's not going to be happening now until possibly later in the year. So the first big event is the Ladies World Championships. That will be at Linear, and that's the 1st to the 4th of September. And then 3 weeks later, the men are over in the Ukraine. That's the 22nd to the 25th. And then we will have Tri-Nations men's event back end of the year as well, probably at some stage in October. So there'll be 3 big events this year.
So where do you fish in the Ukraine? I mean, that seems interesting. Is it somewhere you've been before?
Yeah, me and Carl went over on a recce. When was that? That was a year last September. And Jamie Launders also went over as well. So we put 2 pairs in just to go over. The structure is obviously our manager, but for the practice events or for a European or for an Open, I always try and go and compete at whatever the competition venue is beforehand. So I've got more of an understanding than what it's like. Because, you know, if you've played the surface, you've got more of an understanding of when a match is on, trying to direct people to do certain things. And it was a really, really, really interesting event. We learned an awful lot. Firstly, how far away it is. Secondly, how logistically difficult it is to get stuff into and out of Ukraine because it's outside the EU. Of course, we're now outside the EU. Yeah. So we've got to get all of our shit into the EU, and then we've got to try and get it back out at the other end into Ukraine, and with bait bans and boilie bans and all sorts of stuff like that. We've just been handed a whole package of difficulty with what we can and can't do. So,
what do you know about this bait situation? Everyone's been talking about it. We've mentioned it a few times recently. Yeah. Is it just a teething problem of Brexit, or is this going to be a long-term thing? Are we going to be able to get, animal food products out of England, first of all, on a commercial level for the companies, and secondly, on a personal level for us going fishing?
Yeah, from a commercial level, it is no problem. If you've done everything right, then you can do it. So, for example, Dynamite, obviously they're actually the biggest bait supplier in the world when you look at the coarse baits and the carp baits together, where they send bait to. So they're the biggest in the world. They're right absolutely at the forefront. Marcus Twidale, the MD there, is on to DEFRA at fairly high level, and also on to the DTI, the Department of Trade and Industry, at very high level, trying to work out what these issues are. Because you can imagine it's actually quite a lot of money, the UK bait business, for the amount of stuff that we export anyway. So it's a really, really important thing. So actually, the people that will struggle are typically the people that have either winged it, or alternatively they've said, we'll deal with it a little bit later on. It's not a problem at the moment. They will eventually be able to get everything through, no problem, as long as they've got all the paperwork in place. But the problem with paperwork, particularly this, is you need vet certificates, you need certificate of origin. There's a strange situation. I was talking to Mark Downs at Census, just as a prime example. Census are the biggest bait company in France. And they sponsor the English team. And there's a really strange situation that they have to jump through 50 million hoops to try and import the bait into the UK in the first place. And then when the UK team want to take it back out again, they've got to jump through the same hoops to get it back into France, where it actually came from in the first place. And we haven't even opened the box. Now, the sensible thing is to drive over there without it and pick it up in France. Yeah. But that's not necessarily always the most convenient thing because of where it is. And if you need to get to Holland, to Poland, for example, going that way, the last thing you want to do is have to drive all the way down there and get the stuff. So there are hiccups at the moment, but that's across the board. You look at everything to do with export, you look at everything to do with trade going overseas at the moment. You've got Brexit, you've got coronavirus, you've got the French not liking us, you've got the Dutch wanting to pinch our ham sandwiches. There's all sorts of stuff there, and it was really interesting actually, and I was about to say I've got a bone to pick, but I haven't. But what I will say is I wish when people read a headline that they would read the feature. Because the Angling Times, through my Hughes Views column on there, they headlined a piece that I wrote about, when the Dutch lorry driver got stopped, because it was me that put it right at the forefront at the very beginning, because as soon as we saw that, we thought, you know what, this is potential problems. So I mentioned it in the column, said hopefully common sense will prevail. And it just typical social media, within no time at all, it developed into a Brexit argument about whether we should have or whether we shouldn't have. And you're only saying this because of that, and we know clearly which way you voted. All I'm saying is the common sense element is hopefully the DTI will sort everything out from the commercial side of things, and hopefully there will be a little bit of leeway with regards to us being able to take bait out. Because ultimately, the customs officers can decide. And if you come back in with a set of golf clubs that you've bought overseas, that technically you should record on the way in, you should come through the red channel, you should pay the tax on it. Actually, a lot of the time the customs officers will go, you know what, it's not commercial, it's one thing, crack on, it's not worth the paperwork. It's pretty straightforward. So hopefully there'll be a little bit more common sense there. Of course, the law has to be followed, and of course, it's the application of that law. It's exactly the same as a policeman in 32 or 33 mile an hour. Hopefully there'll be sensible policing. But what we don't want is customs officers from France and from Holland making a point against the English because of the bigger Brexit issue and nicking the ham sandwiches. That seems to me common sense.
Well, this is the thing. I think the thing with that ham sandwich and at that point, like, you know, it's not hard for a French customs officer to want to be a dick, you know, if you give him a little bit of lip or be cheeky or anything. And he's now got the laws there to make your life pretty difficult if he wants to, you know. So, and then maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe his English girlfriend dumped him last week, or it could be just something unconnected to you. But there are kind of rules in place, and we know it's a numbers game, you know. You order something from America, half the time it turns up in the post, half the time it gets stuck in the post office and you have to go and pay some money for it, like you know, we have because of the import duties, so it's pot luck. But for an angler, you know, we might have planned for 12 months to go on a holiday to France. You know, they've got, I mean, what, a week in France, minimum 30 kilo of boilie per person. You know, you could have hundreds of kilos of boilies in your van, depending if there's 2 or 3 of you. It's a significant cost, you know. You might have £1,000 worth of bait in there, and it's 50-50 if it's going to get took off you. You know, when you go, it's a bit of an issue.
But look, I say this all the time across business, across my personal life, across everything. The biggest problem is we don't know what the problem is, and you've probably heard me saying this in the past. When you know what the problem is, actually we can solve it. So the problem is now that actually, if you take bait over the border, there is a possibility that it could be impounded and taken off you. So the answer is don't take it across the border, get some way of getting it there. So you either buy it there, or alternatively, again, it wouldn't be that difficult to order and have it drop shipped over there. And actually, the fact that you're not taking the extra 50 kilos, your car isn't rammed to the rafters, you know, you've got a little bit of extra space. And of all the whinging and all the problems that it might occur, actually, when you look at the saving of not having it in the car, the fuel saving because you're getting a couple of mile per gallon extra, it might cost 20 quid to ship it over there. And if it's going direct from source, actually, there is no problem because they'll have the paperwork in place and it can be run there.
Yeah, so, many of our customers have done that over to Croatia because they're flying and they can't, you know, they can't bring 50 kg about, although some have. They've booked extra suitcases and stuff. But yeah, we've had it shipped from all the major companies at some point. Nash, Sticky Baits, like that. They've all shipped it direct to us. As long as you've got a lake that's ready to receive it, you know, that can store it and whatever.
And, you know, the commercial venues in France, they're going to be very aware. Remember, they've had a year of no business. They've got another 6 months of no business, really, because whilst there is potential for us to be able to start travelling sooner rather than later, realistically, I think it's going to be... I'm taking June the 21st as being green light time. And anything prior to that is slightly risky because, you know what, you can travel tomorrow if you want to in your own business and you can prove it. But actually, you've got the hiccup of, firstly, potential quarantine in the country you travel to. Secondly, quarantine on the way back. Thirdly, do you need to have a COVID jab? Fourthly, you've got to do the test. So there's all these little hurdles in the way that make it more difficult for you to go now. But as soon as we get to mid-May, it will be a lot easier. And after June the 21st, fingers crossed, if everything sticks as it is, you know what? You follow the rules, you're through, no problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a funny one. Even with these jabs, I mean, you know, sort of healthy people are probably going to need to have a jab if you go to Europe regularly and travel. I mean, obviously all this will come out in the wash, but you're going to need to have a jab, I think. Even if you had the first jab tomorrow, you need another one in like 12 weeks' time. So, you know, 3 months from now is what, February, March, April. Yeah, but we're getting well into the spring anyway, I think, before... you don't want to get stuck in another country. The rules change, or they decide that you know you now need a jab. Or one of the biggest fears is a negative COVID test. Quite often, you need to actually travel. So if you pick it up somewhere, you know, while you're abroad, you might think, "Oh, great, we can get away now." But if you pick it up, and then you might need a negative test to leave. If you actually catch COVID, you can test positive for 6 months afterwards, which means you're stuck in that country for 6 months. It happened to 3 lads in Italy last year. They got COVID while they were away. They were fine after a period of time, but they kept testing positive and they wouldn't let them leave. Like for 6 months, it was in all the papers and stuff. And I think these are the sort of things that are going to come out in the wash. We like you said about knowing the problem, we don't know all the problems yet. We don't, because these countries aren't even starting to think about letting us in yet. And I know last year from spending time in Croatia all summer, nobody wanted to come near the English, and that was before we've had the winter that we just had, you know. I think most of our deaths happened in January, didn't they? Like for the whole thing.
That's one of the big risks as well. You know, if you look back when this was all kicking off, if I said to you, "Do you want to go to China or Spain or Italy?" you would have gone on your bike, mate. No way. And suddenly, we're actually towards the top of the list of being the rogue nation with one of the ones with the worst problem. So nobody necessarily wants us to go there, and the French in particular. And this is one of the things that unfortunately happens quite a bit with angling. We get caught up in a bigger political picture. And a prime example of that, which is something that's actually topical at the moment and it's rolling on now, is the issue of leads. So forgive me for jumping off COVID, but onto leads. But there's a big thing about banning the use of lead and lead near watercourses. Now, it isn't necessarily directly aimed at angling. They're looking at shooting. They're looking at all of these things around the outside of it to try and reduce the environmental pollutive effect of, for want of a better word, stuff being there that shouldn't. Now, stuff comes in all formats. It might be lead shot. It might be zinc shot. It might be. It can just be basic litter. There's all sorts of things that actually shouldn't be there, and some of the things we do cause these things to be there. So there's a big kick-off at the moment about whether or not lead should be banned, and it's sort of wheeling itself back around again. And I think that unfortunately carp angling in particular is getting caught up in a problem that it more or less has already solved to itself. You know, let's have a look at how bad lead is. Well, so far, everybody's bleating about lead being bad. There has been, as far as I'm aware, and nobody's produced anything to me, no absolute scientific proof or evidence of the detrimental effect of dangerous pollution, or let's call it a dangerous pollution, of carp anglers' lead weights. Because, for a start, there's hardly any of them. They get diluted, they bury themselves in the silt. It's not something, you don't drop a lead in the lake and suddenly that whole lake dies of lead poisoning.
No, and they're coated in plastic.
And they're coated as well. But ultimately, you know, they're coated now, but actually that coating might last 50 years, but the lead's going to be there in 100 years. So although you've got the coating argument now, that argument doesn't work in 50 years' time, but then you can say, well, actually in 50 years' time, almost certainly they'll be buried. Now, I absolutely 100% get the issue with regards to lead shot, that lead shot is ingested by creatures, and as a result, when those creatures ingest it, then they can get lead poisoning because there is a high amount of toxic substance within a small area. But actually, they don't eat 4-ounce lead weights. Nothing really eats 4-ounce lead weights, and a few 4-ounce lead weights. I'm not condoning it, but I'm defending the fact that I don't think that it is chemical pollution. And I think we're being caught up in a slightly bigger picture. Angling has already solved the problem with regards to birds ingesting lead weights. We don't use them. Simple as that. You know, it's a European legislative thing at the moment, which actually doesn't apply to us anymore because we're not in it. But the French still use lead weights. So this thing is going on because we've already led the way by avoiding lead shot, and yet Europe haven't. So this legislation is going to come in, and we might have to piggyback on the back of that because we still want to be brothers to Europe. And it causes a problem with that. Now, it's interesting because then let's flip the argument and go, well, actually, it's littering. So every time we drop a lead weight, actually we're littering. And if the argument is you're littering, then yes, I get that. We are, you know, there isn't an argument against it. If you drop something, it's littering. So if they're saying that we shouldn't do this because we're littering, I'll get it. But to turn around and say you shouldn't do it because it's causing lead pollution, actually, I completely disagree.
Show us the data, yeah. I actually worked out, I mean, I'll use this as an example, but you could use any of the linear lakes or whatever. But I know, take Grenville, for instance, like the owner's very strict about you must drop the lead, like to the point of it's virtually a banning offence if you don't. You know, if he walks into your swim and you're playing a fish and there's a lead on it, he's not happy at all. But it's a prolific lake. There's thousands of carp in there. You know, Rogers regularly had 60 bites in a session, as have other anglers. You know, a lot of your guys, the England team, fish there, so I'm sure you know about it. You have to drop the leads. I worked out the amount of bites there are per year, and if you presume a 3-ounce lead is being dropped on every single one of those bites, right? And then that's been the same for the last however many years has been prolific, 10 years plus. I think I'd worked out at the time, it was something like 1.5 tons of lead's been dropped in that lake with no effect whatsoever. You know, Paul, who owns it, I know he tests the water regularly. He's obsessive about it, you know, so...
And that's a really key point there, because as a sound grab, somebody could just take the sound grab that you've just given and said, you as an angler have worked out that 1.5 tons of lead is dropped into that. This is terrible. But actually, let's follow that on and say, well, where's the evidence? You know, if there is such an intensity of lead being dropped there, where's the problem?
Well, you're an underwater diver. One of the other things you do quite a lot. I mean, how often do you see leads? I would guess close to never.
It's really weird because I've I've had this question loads and loads of times, and it is almost never. And I did a dive last year at Bishop's Bowl.
Yeah.
And I found 4 in the same place. And I reckon, how long have I been diving? 15 years?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit longer than that. If I found 1 lead in that time, that's it. And I'm talking about leads on the deck that have been dropped as opposed to leads that are hanging in trees. Or if there's been 1 caught on a snag, of course you see those, but you can see the reason for that. But when it comes to drop leads, for some reason you don't see them. And there was a piece in the Times recently, there was another diver that said the same thing. There was a guy, I think it was Andrew Ellis, who does a reasonable amount of netting. And I know netting's slightly different, but if you've got a silty leg, then obviously your lead line's dragging through as well. They don't pick leads up in nets. When they drain down, you don't see very many. It's only on some of the harder marginal spots that you see them because they bury themselves.
But the Earth has a habit of swallowing stuff up. If we left the Earth now, went to Mars or whatever, in 10,000 to 100,000 years' time, which is actually nothing in the scheme of the Earth, how long it's been here, billions of years, everything we see now would be gone. The Earth would have swallowed it. Cars, everything would have, the metal, what wouldn't have lasted 100,000 years, like it would vanish. And now our Earth's made up of minerals and elements and stuff anyway. I mean, how much actual lead and other sort of harmful metals are already in that ground? A lot is the answer. They're already there.
It's just, again, it's another area where angling gets caught up in other politics. Look at the wildlife trusts at the moment. And one of my really, really key concerns at present, and again, it's something I've written about. I've covered it firstly, having seen Carl and Alex's film about the Ditchling Common lake that was lost to fishing. And then after we aired that film on TV, I had another 4 blokes come up to me and say, actually, that's happening. It was Liverpool, it was Aldershot, there was one in the Midlands, and there was another one that I can't remember. And then lo and behold, Medway Valley do it recently. And they've said, actually, we're stopping fishing. Now, somebody, and this is always somebody's got to do this, who's the somebody? But somebody should stand up and start saying something about this, because actually it's clear that angling is booming. We've got 17% extra rod licence sales. If you look at evasion rates, which are accepted by the Environment Agency as being 4%, you can add the evasion rate onto the licence sales rates. We've got an increase of 21% growth in the number of people going fishing. Not only that, but people that fish are going more because they've got more time as well. So we've got a real strange situation now where we've got loads and loads of people going, but actually we're losing facility. So, in the past we had loads of facility, but angling was dropping. Now it's going the other way. So wildlife trusts seem to be taking over lakes. Local authorities can't afford to run them because they haven't got the money. They hand the control over to a wildlife trust, and the wildlife trust turn around and go, actually, we don't like angling anymore. There's going to be a bird watching area. Off you go. And we're losing loads and loads of facility as a result of that. And it's just, this is an area that really needs to be addressed, I think. It's not just Medway Valley. There's loads of places like this.
It seems to me that the Angling Trust, for the first time I can remember from being a kid, and there was lots of kind of smaller bodies representing angling that, everybody always said it needed one body working together, and rather than, this specialist group here or that group over there or whatever. And it seems we've got that now with the Angling Trust. Every single angler has seen what they've done for us. I mean, you've only got to compare angling with golf to see the difference. And the golf have been lobbying the government. I've seen letters from them. They have been. And I can't come up with an argument why the golfers shouldn't be able to go playing golf just the same as we can go fishing. And yet we can go fishing, the golfers can't play golf. So, no, I think the Angling Trust are quite possibly the strongest any body overseeing angling has ever been in my lifetime. Just 48 years that is now. We need to keep moving with that. So give us your kind of overview. I know you're a ambassador or advisor to the Angling Trust.
Ambassador and consultant.
Okay.
I'm not on the payroll. Everything is voluntary. I'll make that clear right from the beginning. I basically, stepping back with the history of the Angling Trust, the previous chief executive was very river and environmental focused. So as a result, that's the way that he faced a lot of the time, and coarse angling and carp angling in particular didn't really come on the agenda. The new guy that's taken over now, he's been in 15-odd months, Jamie Cook. You'll have all heard his name. You'll have all seen the good work that the Trust has done. He's he's just a breath of fresh air, Jay. He really, really is. He gets it. He gets angling. There are people that turn around in the match world and go, well, it's just a tax on us. There's people in the carp world that say, well, Boris would have made that decision anyway. It's nothing at all to do with the Angling Trust. You know what? Knowing how hard these guys work and what they're doing behind the scenes, I would be prepared to stake my reputation, for whatever that's worth, that if these guys at the Trust hadn't done what they have done, we wouldn't be fishing. Simple as that. You know, I've seen the work. I've seen how they've got in there. They've got right in the face of it. They've pulled together really, really good arguments, whether that's financial, whether that's recreational. You know, just the burden on the police is a prime example. You know, the amount of calls the police were getting during the first lockdown about people going places they shouldn't, rural crime, etc., etc., with people fishing, it actually self-polices. So there's significantly less criminal damage, poaching, all of these other incidents, as it were, with people being allowed to fish. And that's something that most people won't even think about, but there is a massive burden on various different resources that can be taken away if we're allowed to look after ourselves. One of the really, really big success stories, and it's an area very close to my heart through the Carp After Combat stuff and Phoenix Heroes that we do, is obviously my angle is for using fishing as a treatment tool for PTSD for ex-servicemen and women. But it's now becoming significantly more recognised about the mental health benefits of fishing. Now, we all know that because we're anglers. But actually, you need someone with a rubber stamp and a knowledge to turn around and go, yes, that's correct. Now, if you speak to 10 anglers, 9 of them go, just chill out. That's why we go. We just want to get off the world. We want to enjoy our peace and quiet in the countryside. And there's loads of research now about what's called blue space and green space therapy. Now, green space therapy, obviously out in the open, and everyone says getting the outdoors makes you feel better. You know, you're moving, you're seeing things, you're experiencing things. It's great. The scientific evidence now going back over 10 years, and it's Exeter University, Cardiff University and Liverpool University that have been doing this research, is that blue space therapy is even better than green space therapy. And fishing falls absolutely smack down in the middle of it. And you may or may not have seen recently that fishing is now being prescribed on the NHS as a treatment tool.
Yeah, we covered it last week on, I think, Tom Ayres from Carp Feed. That's incredible. It's been tested, isn't it, in some areas, and they'll roll it out everywhere. So blue space, I'm guessing, is water sports and being out near water.
Yes.
And green space is countryside, and obviously fishing, we're looking at water and in the countryside. So it's perfect.
Turquoise space, the green and blue mix. Just going back to the therapy thing, because I've been involved in that for a little bit longer. It was me that actually put Tom onto the story in the first place to be able to get it out. We had to be quite timed about when it came out.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Mark Owen who works with the Angling Trust Freshwater. He hates publicity, he hides from everything, but he does like to do what he does. I'm going to turn a light on. I've just seen it's gone a bit grainy here, so I might just pop a light on and see if I can find it, if that's any better or not. But that probably isn't. Yeah, Mark sort of shuns the limelight a little bit because he just wants to be left alone to get on with his job. But we've been speaking about this for a while now. And this is a really, really interesting reason. It's come to the forefront because there's an awful lot of people that are prescribed antidepressants. And one of the problems, particularly in the water testing around these parts in the southwest, is that there's actually quite a lot of antidepressant present in the water. It's not something that you can take out through sewage treatment. It's a little bit like estrogen. So when estrogen passes through the human body and eventually goes down the toilet to the sewage works, they can't take it out. So estrogen goes into rivers. And about 10 years ago, there was a guy called Professor John Sumter at Brunel University who did a story on endocrine disruption. And what they found was that roach were changing sex in certain rivers. The Durwood was one that I remember immediately standing out. And fish populations were dropping because there was high levels of estrogen in the water, and they weren't able to successfully spawn.
From the contraception pill?
As a result of estrogen from the contraception pill, absolutely. So now when we look at it, you've got a similar situation happening that actually GPs are so busy that all they're doing is they're thrashing out prescriptions for antidepressants, which are passing through the body, eventually going into the water, and now there's high levels, high concentrations of that. So it's a double whammy. Firstly, what we need to do is we need to wean people off this high usage of antidepressants. And secondly, what we need to do is we need to clean the watercourses up, because obviously it's going into the water. Now, I don't know what the effect of antidepressants is on waterborne creatures. Do they suddenly become really happy and they're flying around everywhere, or do they get a dependency on it, and when they don't get it, they go down? But, the old saying of "we are what we eat" is very, very true. Eat a month's worth of Big Macs and have a look at yourself. Alternatively, eat salad and run and have a look. It's right, and it's the same with what we're ingesting into our bodies through the rivers.
And we're passing it into fish, yeah. And we've had Tom on about this as well, who's been doing some research, speaking to scientists in, I think, Sweden or some of the Scandi countries anyway, who are doing some research on this. And he hasn't fully blown the lid on it yet because he's still investigating. But he's saying there is an effect. These antidepressants are definitely having an effect.
It's a big, big story. So, basically what's happened is there are 7 GP surgeries, and it's actually very local to me. It's they're kicking off at Radstock, which is in North Somerset. And basically 7 GP surgeries are trying it. There's also a group of surgeries up in Hull. I think there's another group near Manchester that are piloting this. And rather than prescribing antidepressants, they're actually saying, look, you need to get yourself outside more, get the benefits, vitamin D from the air, from the sun, get something to occupy your mind, a little bit of exercise. And fishing has been chosen as one of those things that is perfect. So actually, I can't rock into my GP and go, Doc, I'm not feeling very well. Is there any chance you can subscribe me a week's worth of
set of rods?
I'll have a ticket for a week on B1. That'll sort me right out.
And some vitamin B1 while we're at it.
Yeah. It's not quite that far yet, but it is. It is something that's being recognised by doctors as a really, really good thing. And I'm going to turn a different light on now because that's getting really grainy and it's winding me up.
Well, it just heightens the importance of angling. Angling's been in a position where it's had its knockers over the years. The people against the cruelty and stuff, and we stick hooks in them, we drag them out of the water. Everybody's seen like the Alan Blair arguing with the woman on that park lake in the video. There is always has been a little bit of a I don't know, a shadow over it, a little bit like hunting. People who don't live in the countryside and stuff, they've got one view about hunting, it's just evil and bad. And while I don't agree with certain types of hunting, it's a very, very necessary thing and not necessarily a bad thing for many reasons. Gasper as well as I do, who comes from Slovenia, a country that's big on hunting, and he's a hunter. And I've learned more about hunting since knowing him than I've ever known, and he needs it for his mental health. He goes up into the forest for 2 hours after work every single day of the year. He said he probably takes his gun like less than 1% of all the times he goes into the forest. They're just doing what we do, walking around the lake, feeding, baiting spots, and checking areas. That's pretty much what most of the hunters do. But it has a purpose. They have quotas of how many things they have to kill per year. And if we're going to equate that back to angling, it's the same. As you said before, where anglers are the eyes and ears of the countryside while we're on the bank. We know when something's out of place. We spend more time than anybody else, especially carp anglers. We spend more time in one spot. We notice if something's wrong, if there's a shady looking paedophile loitering around the park that you're doing 3 nights on. Like, we see those things. The police that are wandering in and out for 20 minutes at a time doing the rounds and whatever, then they're not going to notice the same thing that an angler does. It's been there for days, and there's a lot of plus sides of it. And I think with the Angling Trust, what can we do to help all this more? It seems like we're getting a bit of a momentum in the right direction at the minute for angling in general. The Angling Trust are doing stuff like how can we keep this going?
Well, this is where it gets a bit prickly as far as some people are concerned, because ultimately the best thing that we can do is show supporting numbers. Because let's face it, you and I are in a slightly different position to most because we have a platform. And also we're privy to a lot more information than your normal club angler. But what your normal everyday club angler can do is just show his support, and that support is either by supporting causes or joining. But as soon as you say join, they go, I'm going to take this 27 quid, what am I going to get for it? Well, actually, what you're doing is you're supporting the sport. You're not supporting Joe Blogs, you're not supporting somebody's salary, you're not supporting an extra company car. What you're doing is you're actually showing that angling has got a voice and you're supporting that voice, because let's face it, everything needs funding, unfortunately. And one of the problems with the Angling Trust that it's got is that a lot of its funding comes from the Environment Agency to do certain things. So if you look at how much money comes into the Angling Trust, you think, blimey, they're loaded, they get loads and loads of stuff. But actually, a lot of it is government-funded, ring-fenced to provide a service that the government want them to provide. So it might be fishery protection, it might be enforcement, it might be promotion of certain aspects, it might be equality issues, it might be training, it might be coaching, it might be kids, it might be whatever. So they have to do these things. So actually, if you strip all that out and look at what you and I would say is the meat and bones of it, who's going to protect our sport? The Environment Agency don't pay the Angling Trust to protect the sport. As members, we have to pay to protect the sport. We need somebody as a voice, and again, it's this: somebody should do something about it. Well, who's the somebody? Why don't you do it? Well, actually, there's quite a lot involved, because you have to have that mouthpiece, you have to have that channel. And anybody that says, and the match anglers were terrible at this, and I've seen one or two carp anglers mention it as well. Anybody that says that the Angling Trust don't have a voice in and directly to government clearly just doesn't know how the system works.
But this is the good thing about this. One of the few silver linings of the COVID scenario. I think anglers do have now seen what the Angling Trust have done. I don't think there's anybody that will dispute that now. The what have they done for us type thing. We've seen it. We've seen the fact that we have had special dispensation. We've seen the golfers. No angler could say that a golfer couldn't go and do what he does. There's usually only a couple of them. They're always, they're out in the fresh air walking. It's no different to meeting your friend in a public space and having a walk around the park.
Let's look at two very similar scenarios from the 12th, which is a week on Friday, isn't it? So from the 12th, two people can meet up in public and can go for a walk together.
Yeah.
So you and I technically can go for a walk around a lake, but actually, if we want, we can fish. Let's use golfers as a prime example. You and I can technically go to the golf course and we can walk around the golf course together, but we can't take our clubs. Yeah,
it's crazy. And the Angling Trust have done that. Everybody knows. And I've seen the letters on some of the golf pages and things that people have sent me that their bodies have done what the Angling Trust have done for angling. They've sent letters in saying there's no reason why we can't. I've read some of the letters that have been posted, and they've had a no and we've had a yes. So nobody can deny that the Angling Trust have got a voice directly to government. I think people like yourself, Ali Hamidi and stuff, have been quite vocal about letting people know this. So I think everybody owes the Angling Trust 27 quid or whatever it is. I really do.
I just think it's worth, now if ever there was a time to try and support it, just have a look at the good that's been done and support it. And if you decide that you don't want to support it in 12 months, then fair enough, so be it. But just, as a little vote of thank you, as a brilliant, this is it. Just join.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. And if you disagree with me, that's entirely your own right. You don't have to join. You will be serviced anyway, because the trust will do what the trust do, because they're there to fight for angling. But I just think it'd be great to get more people in there, because when we start getting attacked, we're being supported by all levels now, but when we start getting attacked at some stage in the future, and they turn around and go, well, there's 1.2 million anglers in the country, where's the governing body? Oh, actually, they've got 25,000 members. Yeah. 25,000 out of 1.2 million isn't actually a lot. So that's where the argument is, well, you don't really represent us. You do, you're just not necessarily members. And this is one of the problems I think that the Trust have had in the past, that the previous CEO was like, well, I will represent my members and that's it. And if of the cross-section of anglers there is only that many and they like a certain thing, then that's who he's going to represent. Jamie that's in at the moment is across the board representing angling. He's looking at all areas of it. And I again, it's just a breath of fresh air. But there we go.
So, how have you been working on the angling side of your business? The on the bank stuff, you've been able to get out. Have you been filming? Have you been producing content?
Yeah, for Christmas, we're lucky because the way the season works, you have 6 weeks on, then you have 6 weeks off, and we can run a repeat season, in the period that we're off. So 6 weeks prior to Christmas, really, really, really busy, flat out. And then I was looking forward to a little bit of time off, and then of course lockdown comes in. So we haven't been able to do any filming now, but we're on a repeat season now anyway, so it's not that much of a problem. but I've missed shows and events because, like we said earlier, it's show season now. So this time of year, I'm normally at all of the events. It would be it's yours this weekend. It would be Zwolle next weekend. It would have been Prague, I think, the weekend before. So there's loads of shows that have been missed.
So, as somebody that's been producing, high quality video, film, etc., for quite a while, obviously you're on BT Sports currently with the On the Bank program. You've obviously noticed people like Darryl doing a subscription service. You've got the Sipography, you've got the KWO lads abroad. There seems to be an emerging market in angling now, where it comes to not just audio, podcasts and stuff. There's 20 odd of them in the country now, and 2 new ones started last week that I know about. This video boom, which is probably more your expertise. Where do you see this going? And it's now a career. You can make video and get paid for it more than any angler's ever been paid by any company ever to go fishing.
It's potentially been a career anyway, because it's just a magazine, isn't it? So, but it's a very specialist magazine now, and I think it's great, to be honest. I saw a couple of comments, don't start charging for stuff, or someone else is jumping on the bandwagon. You know what? You've got choice. You can buy it or not buy it. Nobody's forcing you to buy the stuff that people are selling. And I think it's a little bit like, when Carp World came out as the first magazine, there was one choice, and that was Carp World magazine. And then you've got Total, and then you've got Advanced, and then you've got Crafty, and then you've got Carpology, and you've got Big Carp, and you've got Carp Addict. So what will happen is that what started off as one or two doing a premium pay service will turn into everybody having a bit of fun to it. And eventually the ones that have started will probably make quite a lot of money over a short period of time. And then they'll settle down a little bit and level out. And then others will start, and there'll be little flash in the pans. And, ultimately, people will pay for good quality content, whatever it is, whether it's a book, whether it's a video. We watch films on Netflix. There's loads of films on telly. You don't need to pay for extra ones, but we do, because actually that's where you get the good ones or the releases. So, I think choice like that is actually pretty good, really.
Yeah, it's great. But what you've got happen, obviously you've got, BT Sports produce stuff, BBC produce sports stuff, ITV, Channel 4. But what's happening is there's kind of room for all of them, and then Netflix just buy them up. They're buying up the old content. All the ITV dramas are on Netflix now. All right, you watch them first on ITV, but 6 months later they're on Netflix. Same, the BBC are doing the same.
Also, just in case anybody wants to see On the Bank and they don't subscribe to BT Sport, we're now on Amazon Prime. So
there you go.
Classic. If you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch On the Bank on Amazon Prime as well, which is cool.
Yeah, classic example, Amazon Prime, and that is where I will watch them, actually. I don't watch any scheduled TV, haven't done for well over 10 years. I have a Fire Stick, I have Amazon, I pay for everything. I've got Netflix, I've got Amazon Prime, got Now TV, got them all pretty much, which is still a fraction of what I used to pay the cable provider, Virgin or Telewest it was before that. So obviously there's so much entertainment out there to consume now, and I'm glad that On the Bank is Amazon Prime, because I never really got a chance to watch what was on TV. I always missed it, I was never in, and I don't even own a live TV set up anymore. I couldn't watch it if I wanted to. But that's fantastic. But I mean, it's now becoming a kind of a legitimate career. Only certain people could get into magazines. It's kind of, if you weren't with the company or if your face didn't fit or whatever. I remember Bernie Loftus not going on the front cover of, I think it was Advanced Carp, when he'd had an amazing fish. I think it was that linear that was named after him from Dinton, and they won't put him on the front cover because he was too old. Like, I remember being up in arms at the time about it with Holmesy and Roger. We were talking about it. It was like, people want to see the fish, and they're like, well, it doesn't sell magazines. The 50-year-old guy, or however old he was at the time, I don't know, with one of the best fish in the country. It was like, so it's political. Whereas people being able to create their own content is not political. You can do it, and if it's out there, and now there's people like Elliot at Sipography, people are buying up this content. I think the only danger with the way it's going is we're going to run out of new content, because there's only so many lake blades, there's only so many garders. Are you finding that with your filming and getting new concepts and new ideas to do? Or
well, yeah, to a degree. But the good thing with On the Bank, as a prime example, is that we cover absolutely everything. So with an hour-long show, there might be a carp fishing element where it will be instructional, and then there'll be a trout fishing adventure where we're climbing up a mountain trying to catch a trout in the middle of Wales. Then there might be a story about going out with the police, looking at what the police do for enforcement. So it's a real cross-section of stuff. It's a little bit, look at Country File as a prime example. And On the Bank, for those of you that don't know what it is, it covers everything, but we normally have one general fishing story of one challenge, and then there'll be a non-fishing fishing thing. And that might be, let's have a look at how a fish farm works. Let's go and spend a day with the police, working out what they do, how they look at enforcement. Let's have an interview with a wildlife trust and find out what their views are. So it's a cross between Top Gear and Country File, a little bit of gadget show, all these sort of things. So as far as we're concerned, we can run forever because there's always something you can talk about, and there's lots of different disciplines. So you might watch it, and there'll be carp fishing, salmon fishing, and police in it. Then the next week there might be perch fishing, chub fishing, and how to make a fishing rod. So it's very wide interest. When you look at the likes of Sipography as a prime example, it's shot beautifully. It's really, really cinematic. It's got its own style and characteristic. When you look at Joe's stuff, Carp Angle, that's just come out, it's actually a little bit different to that. It's presented in a slightly different way. So as much as there's different TV programs on, actually they offer a slightly different thing to a different audience. The problem will come is if people are scratching the same people for the same interviews all the time to do the same thing, because there's only so many times that you want to see, Alan talking about the bread bomb, or Steve Ringer talking about method feeder, or whatever it might be, because it's interesting stuff. But I get caught in the trap a little bit of people want to know about colours and how important colours are. So let's go to Hughes because he's the diver and he knows all about it. It's the same question that keeps getting wheeled around all the time. Yeah. And I don't mind. I'd answer the question if I'd been asked it yesterday by somebody, but I wouldn't come on here and answer the same question today. We'd have to discuss a different element of colour, because just saying the same thing again and again and again, you almost get pigeonholed and stereotyped.
Yeah, Julian and his multi-rig, is a classic example. It's people go to the same people, but it's one of the reasons why Julian was talking about it the other day, why he likes this podcast. Is, I said to you before we started, I haven't prepped anything. We haven't spoke for a long time. I could have sat there and worked out thought about a load of stuff to talk about, but then it's going to be probably the obvious stuff, the things that we're both known for, from the underwater diving to the whatever. And I prefer a conversation just to go naturally, and we see where it goes. And fortunately, it's never gone wrong yet, But I had no idea what we were going to talk about when we started. It's just a conversation.
Can I pigeonhole you, because you know something about stuff that I don't know enough about. It just confuses me. And this is moon phases, right?
Yep.
Now, we've got. Is it the Wolf Moon that's coming up?
I don't know the names of the individual moons, and because I've not been fishing for weeks, but I'm going to look on my moon app now as we.
There's a big moon coming up, and it was either January.
So we've got the full moon on
Saturday, isn't it?
Sunday. Sunday's the actual the main one, yeah. So Saturday night, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If you've been around angling for any period of time, and you pay attention to what's going on, and remember, my job is within Team England. As manager, I've got to put the right tools in the box first, and then we come up with a plan together. And after that, I've just got a pattern spot. So I spend the majority of my life pattern spotting, and if you can spot the pattern, you can find out what the winning areas are within that pattern. And if you speak to any anglers that fish in the winter in particular, you'll know that the back end of February is when it all switches on.
This is the one, yeah. I remember Lewis Reed having heather on this full moon in February from Yateley. So for those that don't know, the younger people, there were 9 mirrors in Yateley. There was a few stocky commons, but generally there was 9 fish that the best anglers in the country were fishing for. On this particular night in February, and it was in the minuses, 3 different fish were caught that night. Now, I don't know if that's ever happened on any other night other than opening night. And on opening night, when I first started on there, bearing in mind it had a proper close season, it opened not in February, but in June, when 15th of June, when the weather's nice and the fish have, it's spring still, clubbing week. There were 3 fish out. There were 2 fish out on opening night when it hadn't been fished for 3 months. On this night in February, I didn't know it was called the Wolf Moon, that particular one. I only ever remember the harvest one in the autumn, but it is this weekend, the equivalent of. So I'll tell you something, if you're using it for forward planning or projecting, I'll tell you, because we use this in events as well. So basically, you have generally in the lunar calendar, the significant ones we know about, the full moons and the new moons. Full moons seem to be coming a little better than they used to be when I was younger. It used to be the kiss of death, but big fish do seem to be liking the full moons. But basically, out of your 12 a year of each one, the full moons are generally high pressure, right? So clear, sunny, cold. So if you get a full moon in winter, it's generally cold, clear and still, as it was this particular night when Lewis had Heather the Leather, probably 15 years ago. And with the new moons, they're generally low pressure, wet, windy, raining, and quite often that weather will only come in for the exact 2 or 3 days of the new moon cycle, and then it's gone. Like literally like flicking a switch, the pressure drop comes. But there are, what I've noticed through pattern recognition is there are either 3 or 4 of each one that's the opposite. So 8 out of the 12 full moons will be high pressure, and cold and clear and whatever, or cold if it's in winter, but just still and no wind if it's in summer. But 4 a year are the opposite. You get the big fish conditions come in with the full moon, and vice versa. With the new moons, you generally get the low pressure, and then 4 a year seem to be high pressure ones. I haven't detailed it enough. Sean, what's his face? Got the bait company. Well, I can't remember his surname. He's been a guest. Loves his outdoor cooking on the wood. What's he called? Owns Quest Baits. Sean. Anyway, he'll be able to tell you straight away which ones are the low pressure one, which ones are the high pressure ones. He's got it in a book. He's logged everything forever. But there are patterns, like you said, exact patterns.
It's funny you say that. I remember it was October. I was out at Abbey Lakes, and it was full moon. This is going back a few years. And it was one of those really weird ones where normally with a full moon I expected to be flat calm, and it just blew a hooligan.
So that's what happens. So if you were going to use that to predict, so if I'm putting on a music event on the beach in July, I would not be putting it on the week of the new moon, because you're just leaving yourself open to wind and rain. So you could go even more detailed if you actually could look at weather data, which would be really easy to do. If you're using it for event planning or something, or for planning a fishing holiday, I always, if I'm booking a trip abroad or wherever, a special trip somewhere, and I get the dates offered, if any of them are on a new moon, that's the date that I'll pick, because 8 out of 12 times, which is fairly good percentage if you're going to long term predict, because quite often you're booking a year or two in advance in some of these foreign holidays, so I'll try and just pick it on a new moon week. But I could probably be a bit more accurate if I spent a bit of time going over previous year's data, because it'd be very easy. But what I've noticed is it's either 3 or 4 are the opposite to the norm, and the norm is high pressure for full moons and low pressure for new moons.
The reason I raised this one in particular is that we're not seeing social media feeds as much now because not as many people are fishing. But every now and again there's a spike, and there was a spike on Wednesday and Thursday this week. The first fish was caught out of my syndicate lake since I think it was the second week in December. So it just switched off completely, and it was the biggest fish in the lake. Interestingly, I've been fairly local to me is Coking Farm. It's not switched on yet, and there's one lake in particular that's got some big ones in that is due to switch on, and it just hadn't. And lo and behold, the same afternoon, a 42-pound common came out of there as the biggest fish came out of my syndicate lake. And then suddenly we've got a dynamite page, and ping, 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 3 biggest fish came out of 3 biggest lakes. And they were all like, that's 5 biggest fish in 5 different lakes. within a period of, I'll say 12 hours, but it was probably 18 hours.
It happens all over the country, and quite often it is the biggest fish. Like you say, it was the one, the one that maybe gets caught once or twice a year, and all those rare ones, but big significant fish enough to make the news, all get caught on the same afternoon, or the same evening, or the same 12 or 24-hour period. It's very, very common that I've noticed.
Well, it's just happened. So, and keep you right, because I think we've probably got another 3 or 4 days of what I would call like mega time before we get in, because we're all looking out the window now. Oh, the sun's out, it's looking really nice, it's getting better. There is, but every now and again, there's that little thing that instead of it being there, it's there.
Yeah, but like you said, it's not all the fish; it's the big ones, it's the specific ones. And Mark and I call it lump day or lump week.
Yeah.
You get these weeks. It only happens maybe once, sometimes twice in a year. And the significant ones get caught from wherever it is. So yeah, obviously, we're recording this Thursday evening. It's going to be going out Friday.
Yeah.
You can fish this weekend.
Yeah, if you can get out because it's big fish time now. And I reckon by Tuesday or Wednesday next week it'll back off.
Yeah, well, the full moon period on my app where it's showing, it shows you like 100% sort of fishing potential. Is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's those 3 days, with Saturday night being the peak. So,
I've got to say, I still think it's voodoo magic. I don't understand why, but the more I look at it, there is definitely something. It's interesting as well, and I'm not going to knock the embryo calendar. I think the embryo calendar is lovely, but I bought one a couple of years ago, and they've got a moon phase traffic light system on there, and I thought, right, I'm going to record significant captures when they come through, significant ones to me, both ones that I've caught and also ones that my pals have caught. And I'm tuned into the international big fish scene as well. And the biggest fish in rainbow, the biggest fish in Euroaqua, the biggest fish in Shumbar, and the biggest fish in Shanty came out on the same day about 2 years ago.
Yep, and I've said this a lot. I mean, it sounds like voodoo, but there's absolutely no voodoo at all. If you equate, you can, because you can go back and equate it to, and it's not always the weather that matches up, but the moon does match up. So if you take any big fish angler that does go for the biggest one in the lake, moves on, a Terry Hearn type, or it was Sean Harrison, by the way, the name that I couldn't remember before. He's really, really detailed into it. He said he could show his book to anybody, they would have no qualms whatsoever. They'd be like, wow, I need to do the same, as opposed to questioning it. But you take any big fish angler, and then if you got the dates off them of their captures, and then you link them up to a moon calendar, you'll find that probably 80% of their standout either sessions or the big fish came on a new moon. It's within 2 or 3 days either side. And I went back when I first started getting into it. I went back over all mine, because you write the date on the photographs, don't you? On the old school photographs, you'd put the date on the back so you don't forget. I went back over them all. They're almost all new moons, like the biggest fish, for about 15, 16, 17 years, I sort of did that sort of fishing in England, where you literally targeting a fish in a lake, and you look at all the previous captures of that fish, you want to know the best times to fish for it, and they're always around new moons. Mr. Angry, that I know you know of from the Manchester Park Lake, I think it's only out of about 17 recorded captures, I think there's been one that wasn't on a new moon. And it's fish that gets caught once every 2 years sometimes.
Yeah, it is definitely, there are spikes. Unfortunately, the problem is that when you've got work scheduled in, you've got various different things scheduled in. I'm kicking myself in particular about this one, because, like I say, I'm normally busy at this time of year, and I promised myself that I'd have a go this year. And I went down to the lake. I've not been there for ages, and I went down to the lake back end of last week, and I spoke to the lad that runs it and went, I'm going to be down this week pre-baiting, because I reckon it's time. And I didn't. You just think, just do it. Just get out and do it. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. Well done to all of the guys that are catching them anyway. But I just think now, if you've got the opportunity of getting out, it's absolutely smack up for it.
So we can wrap this up unless there's anything else you're burning to get out there. But yeah, when are you going to enjoy some fishing? Like, have you got plans then?
Mate, I've been fishing loads.
Oh, okay.
I've been fishing absolutely loads. I've probably fished more since just before Christmas than I have in God knows how long, because I've actually had the time, and this lockdown has caused us all to look a little bit closer to home. So as a result, we're all carp anglers. I'm a carp angler, but ultimately I'm an angler, and I just want to catch fish. I need to be by water. I need to go out and be able to catch fish. And I said to my lad, because we were so busy just up until Christmas, I said to my lad that as soon as we've got Christmas out of the way, we'll go out and we'll have a few just afternoons. So we'll do whatever we need to do in the morning. We'll go out for a couple of hours here and there, and we'll set ourselves little targets. And I tend not to put weights on targets, because if you fail, if you miss that target, you're almost disappointed. So, for example, he likes to do a little bit of everything. So I said, right, we'll do species hunt. So we'll go out. I'd like to catch a decent river roach. Now, a decent river roach depends on the river. It depends on how often you roach fish. It depends on where you go. It depends on what's in there. So all I wanted one was a decent one in the circumstances. So rather than saying £2, if I'd have gone out and I'd have caught 10 £1 15-ounce fish, but my target had been 2, I'd have been really disappointed. So, do you know what I mean? So I didn't stick a weight on it. And I went out and I had some amazing fish. The roach fishing was phenomenal. Caught loads and loads of big fish. Had a nice big day. Had a really big grayling. I've been chubbing, really enjoying my chubbing. Like, I didn't realise how many chub there are around, and they're so obliging. The chuck a bread feeder in, open end cage feeder, lump of bread, literally stick it somewhere near a bush, near a river, somewhere, and the chances are a chub will have a crack at it. And you can go and get a fishing fix in 2 hours. It's been lovely.
I used to love river fishing for chub when I was younger. River Dame used to fish in Cheshire, but it's some of my favourite sort of fishing, that, and I haven't done it for years, and I should have really had a go this winter while we're kind of in this situation, but
because the mind hasn't allowed us to go and do the big carp fishing that we needed to do or want to do, it's made me look at places that I wouldn't normally look at. And the river that runs through the middle of Froome is actually a really, really good chub river. And I've run down it every day, and I've blanked it. Just thought, it's not really worth it. And having got into it because I've been forced to get into it, I'll have a little look down here. Blimey, that's not bad. No, I haven't had a 5 yet. I've had them up to mid 4s, but my mate's lad come out. He had one 5.11.
Wow.
Which for a stream is an enormous chub. And I bet you it's never been caught before, because people just don't fish there. But the highlight, I've got to finish off this one. The highlight for me of all of it, I was on a species hunt on a river, and I was trying to catch some dace, and the dace sit towards the back end of the pool, just where the gravel's coming up. And I'm running the stick float down. Thunk, it's gone under, and I've had a dace, sort of 4 or 5 ounces. Thunk, it's gone under, I've had another one. Thunk, it's gone under, and it's a slightly different fight. Anyway, I've ruled it in. I've got the photographs of it. I can show you a ruler on my hand as well with the measurement of it. It was a gudgeon. It was just shy of 7 inches.
Wow. I actually love gudgeon.
Mate, that's my hand. Because from there to there on the hand, it is a massive fish. Like, a 7-inch gudgeon. Most gudgeon are that big, aren't they?
Yeah.
It was like 3 gudgeon long and another gudgeon underneath it.
I bet you looked up the record for gudgeon, didn't you?
Stupidly, because I don't weigh stuff unless it's unless I'm expecting it to be either a PB. So I've got quite a big PB day. So unless I catch what I class a double figure day, so anything over 10 ounces doesn't come near the scales. And I've caught them to just shy of a pound. So I want a pound fish. So if it looks like it might threaten a pound, I'll weigh it. Otherwise, I'm not overly bothered. So the scales were in the van, and I've had the gudgeon. Thought, hey, it's a lovely gudgeon. Sort of taken a photograph of it, sort of looked at it, admired it, put it back in, and just thought, I should have weighed that. So, straight away, because it wouldn't. The record, I think, is 5 1/4 ounces or either 5 or 4 1/4 ounces. So it wasn't that big. Yeah, but it might have been 3. And if you caught something 75% of the British record, that's a big fish. That's a 3.5 pound roach. That's a 4 pound perch. That's a 50 pound carp. In gudgeon terms, 7 inches is a big gudgeon.
7 inches is very commendable in all industries. Terry got everybody perch fishing one year. Drop shotting became the fame, but gudgeon bashing is going to be our game for next winter, I think, Rob, because of you.
just have a go. It's amazing just catching all these different things. We went on a species hunt, so as soon as you caught whatever it is that you're after, change and go for something else. So and just have a little bag of different things in there, and the kids love it. It's like 2-3 hours. Yeah, just go out and try and catch one. Just brilliant fun. Pike out the river as well. They're always good fun.
Fantastic, and what a nice little and finally to end on there as well. I like to have something happy at the end, I'm gonna 7 inches happy endings. I mean, what I don't really know what's going on here. I'm gonna have to get a happy endings jingle made.
Well, don't play that near me, will you, for heaven's sake? The Hughes news and then the happy ending. I'm just going to see if I can find a picture of him. Hang on a second. I don't know
well, send it to me and I'll drop it in over the top while we're talking about it. It's a beauty of the Carp Cast being video as well now. We can actually bring things to life. Yeah. So if you send it to me before tomorrow lunch, then I'll make sure it goes in properly, not just on the phone screen.
I'll send the roach picture as well, because that was just something else. And it's been a real breath of fresh air, and what it's also done is it's lit me fire for going angling, and now it's carp fishing time as well coming up. I'm just so desperate to get out. I've had a few nice little day sessions, but there isn't anything massive around here to stimulate. You know what it's like when you've been around a bit. Going out and catching a 10 or 12 pounder is fun, but you want to be trying to catch 20 pounders plus, and where I live, there's just not many of them around here.
Yeah, of course.
So, and we've got to play the game and not travel too far. So my carp fishing has been restricted a bit, but we'll all be back on it soon.
Well, thank you for returning to the Carp Cast, and we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we'll be having shows again soon. We'll do some more interviews, maybe some filming. There's a lot going on this year, so thanks, Rob Hughes.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your ending.
Check out the website at www.thecarpcast.com. There you'll find extra content, merchandise and lots more to support the show, including our entire back catalogue of free offerings.